Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself by using some hyperboles. I am that voice that toss a tongue, but no one chatters back. They rather act like bladders acting spaz on rappers. Matter of fact, that's so real, I can't say psych nah yet. Feelings that I caught made me feel that caution. Waiting for the day I get the silence I deserve. So I ain't talking oxen when I say I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am.
I wanna show that now's our time. Today is my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay.
Man, I'm finally getting this show. I can spit it raw. Zizzy, y'all. In case you didn't know me, let me tell you, it's a rap. Like I'm sick of eating hoagies. They try to lock this top notch down on the low key and provoke me. I stick my tongue at them. Like Yoshi, I got to show people I can come up and swag. And when they feel my presence, they gon' back up like that. They see me now, they hear me very loudly, crystal clearly. Now they all jocking, pole jocking, trying to be near me. What is that? Now no one's ever speaking but me. When I talk, cause when I talk, it's all for DJ IG. Dag, yo, it's only me and my team. That will come with more flavor than a bowl of ice cream. Since the verse is ending, I'ma thank you all for listening. Taking time and witnessing. Now I'm finally glistening. Feeling like I'm Christian. Well, that might not be the word. Beg your pardon, y'all. I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am.
I wanna show that now's our time. Today is my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay.
Martin made him say that. Malcolm made him say that. Bill Clinton, oh boy, yeah, he made him say dag. I mean, dag, do I gotta blab? Make some people mad just to grab me that precious glam like I'm Smeagol's hand. Nah, man, ain't even right. And I won't test the road, cause I keep this next to my heart. It's like a stethoscope. If you ain't hear that, do not worry. You can rest assured. Google me or look me up with that Dewey Decimal, yeah. To be cherished and be loved is to be heard. To be seen and to be noticed and receive what you deserve. Put them high. No, wait, cuz, see, it ain't your turn. Psych, nah. DJ IG, we spittin' verse. And let that be my testimony. You just learned a lesson, homie. One that talks the talk and walks it is the one who gets the trophy. It's hard for me to step when they be stepping on me, but I ain't the only one. Yeah. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am.
I wanna show that now's our time. Today is my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Yeah.
Early in the summer gauntlet, it's a brand new introduction to a series that takes its championship pursuit to the backyard of stock car racing. Live from Concord, North Carolina, the KBueno Racing Network welcomes you to exclusive coverage of the third race in the 2025 SAAC Cup Series in the fourth season from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Thank you so much for joining the coverage tonight on KBRN alongside Francisco Bacalhau in the booth. I am Kenneth Bueno. Well, it's pretty exciting, Francisco, to get a new series under our belt. This Thursday night edition of the SAAC Cup Series, our first trip to 1.5 miles this season. Only race 3, so we kind of captured this series a little early on in its calendar year. But as we take a look at what season 4 has to offer for us, Francisco, brand new next-gen car updates, same 1.5 miles at Charlotte. We're going to see a very different ball game. Lots to expect in this race.
Yeah, very happy to be here. Very exciting stuff to join this series and its adventure throughout season number 4 and get to know some of the drivers, the racing, and seeing what happens out here on the racetrack from a very early perspective here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Really happy. It keeps us busy here on the KBueno Racing Network, provides the viewers with some great racing, and I think Charlotte, great racetrack. These new updates that we've seen throughout the week are definitely going to provide some answers to some of the questions we may have had as far as how it's going to perform, and I can't wait to see it alongside you.
Well, you and I had the chance to drive this next-gen car alongside the entire iRacing service. They updated the setups yesterday, so even more limited time for the drivers to kind of acclimate themselves on what these cars actually feel like. What should we expect? Wild racing?
Well, it could be, but I mean, there's just so much variety as far as things that can happen. There's a general clue that we have, but we really won't know for sure what's going to happen until they drop the green flag. It is brand new territory.
It's a car that is familiar to many, but with this change, it has really made them all relearn this race car as they dive into the first 1.5 mile race of the season, to which Charlotte is not necessarily an easy track to drive by any sense of the imagination, but that's where we're going to find out how all things will shake out here in virtual Concord, North Carolina. Well, we joined this series in the third race of the campaign. We missed Daytona. We were not there at Michigan, but we can give you a slight recap as to what happened in the Irish Hills in virtual Brooklyn. This was a late race restart inside 25 to go, and then in those waning laps, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, that's that blue car to the inside, makes the move 3 wide down the back straightaway. That's Dane Cruz in the middle, and in the midst of fighting with his fellow teammate and good friend Steven Maggio, Moreno was able to scoot up to the front, and that's where he would never give up the race lead from there. Third career SAAC Cup Series win for Ethan Fonseca Moreno, first at the Michigan International Speedway. That's his first win in the series, by the way, since December 5th of 2024. So, frankly, it's been a little while since we've seen Moreno in victory lane, at least in the context of this SAAC Cup Series. And Francisco, we're probably going to see a lot of those same names, Maggio, maybe Cruz, maybe Moreno at the front of this field, especially Moreno, who kind of comes off of as a pretty hot Charlotte driver, one that really wants to get to victory lane here, likes the style of racing that this track provides, and he's going to try to go for back-to-back for the first time in his career.
He's definitely the guy to beat when it comes to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, capturing the victory in the most recent dropping the hammer and 4 wide races here. Some very notable victories for himself here, and he's been contentious in other events here in the past as well. But like I said, brand new race car could provide some brand new challenges. It certainly leans in his strength of having to save that right front tire and drive it like it means something. And considering we might not see that kind of pack racing that we've come to see over the last few months at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, where drafting and choosing which line is going to matter in the sense of getting runs and all that, it could help him in his defense. We saw him really master the defensive masterclass those last handful of races, but we'll see if he has to put up those kinds of stops in tonight's race, or if it's just going to be more about tire saving and making sure you stay in the clean air.
It's a type of car that now rewards a lot more discipline, but also rewards those who know how to play the aero game. That's something that we'll delve deep into as we move forward with tonight's coverage. Let's look at one of the drivers, though, to watch for. That is the defending series champion, and that is Steven Maggio, driver of his number 51. He's the winner last time we were at 1.5 miles. It was the finale at Las Vegas. This was the race right before Season 3 at Phoenix. This was JCTV, one of our good friends, covering that show there. Maggio with a very convincing victory. He would walk away with, I believe, his second of the season. And then Las Vegas, the championship finale with the SAAC 6. Those 6 drivers running for the championship. We'll also dive into the details of what this championship format looks like for this unique series. Here he is to the inside of Amir Bascombe. Great battle for the lead inside the final few laps, but Maggio would stay up front, hold off the charging Bascombe, and walk away with the victory. And in all that, still couldn't figure out who would have the championship by the time the checkered flag raised. But in terms of things, it was Stephen Maggio, the champion of the series, and he got to celebrate in the virtual desert at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So that's where it puts us at the moment, with Maggio, the defending champion, a driver trying to get another victory and one to be the first of the 2025 campaign for the 51 car. Well, Francisco, let's get into our first 1.5-mile racetrack of the season. It's a typical cookie cutter Charlotte Motor Speedway, 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers. And like you said with the setups right before we went live, the 24 degrees of banking, and this layout may provide some real challenging racing, but one that is very fast as well.
They're very fast. These cars are a little bit quicker than they were the last time we've been here, so it could throw some people off here, as we have some different things to have to worry about. Here's an onboard lap, outdated now, I must say, since this was with the previous generation of the cars, but generally speaking, we could see something similar or different to this here tonight. If you know that that paint area is going to have a lot of grip in it on both ends of the racetrack, you slide up even just a little bit and you will lose a lot of grip, and it'll want to go towards the outside wall. But if you happen to wrap the outside wall, if you run the boards, if you will, incredible speed and lap time can be found up there, and possibly even so on the old tires. So I really think that the multi-groove racing could, at a track like Charlotte, could benefit with what we're seeing with these brand new cars.
And you're seeing drivers right now putting in their last several laps in warm-up. A lot of guys came out for this one. It is packed like sardines. Over 40 drivers have come on to the session. Only 40 through qualifying will advance. So they have already done that process. The 40 drivers are confirmed for tonight's race, and that could involve some championship drama for some guys trying to elevate themselves in the championship just after the 2 races. They end up missing tonight's race from Charlotte. Well, they're going to have to go home and wait until the next ever race of the series out west at the virtual Sonoma Raceway. So just a couple of minutes until the drivers get down for the warm-up session, just before we get the green flag tonight from Charlotte. It is set to be a real fun one. We have not seen a league race with the Next Gens yet, with these brand new Next Gen updates from iRacing as a result of the brand new 2025 Season 3 build. Also included a ton of refresh tracks, so over the course of the season, you'll see a lot of the new look speedways that were on the service now because of iRacing's attempt to get all the tracks updated before NASCAR 25, their console game, comes out later this year. So we'll see how that all shakes out and how much fun it's going to be re-looking at the tracks from the past and kind of seeing how renovated they are. Charlotte will be included as one of those renovated tracks hopefully soon, maybe a patch, maybe a season update in September, but at this moment it's all about just the waiting game, seeing what we're going to do as we wait for the new Charlotte Motor Speedway rescan to come out on the service. We've had a lot of great races here at Charlotte. This is one of the basic 1.5-mile tracks that usually features on most oval leagues on the service, and that's why in today's KBueno moment in time, we don't go too far. We ended up with a great race in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs right at this very speedway, where a driver in the SAAC Cup Series alongside 4Wide, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, captured his second career victory here in Season 7. Welcome to today's KBueno moment in time. This moment comes from this year and the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series playoffs from Charlotte. Playoff racing from Charlotte, the round of 10 ends tonight. Green flag. Oh, and a spinner. Rivers Jones is around as he had the wheel spin off the final corner, and there is more collecting in it. Chaos was the theme of the first segment in this Charlotte race. After the opening lap scuffle, playoff drivers were involved in the secondary caution. Curtis Kelly and Brandon Banks were among those involved in a huge back straightaway crash that took out many drivers in the field. But after that, it became clean and green, with Brandon Hawken, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, and Stephen Maggio leading the charge up at the front. A battle for the lead will ensue as Moreno, desperate to get a win at Charlotte Motor Speedway, sent his Chevrolet to the front of the field. And then there was hefty contact between Hawken and Maggio fighting for second, which would take the best driver of the series and the eventual champion out of the event early on. Championship 5 hopeful Kyle Benson would charge for the lead, but then would get spun and in turn 3, igniting a huge crash, also involving the 71 of Curtis Kelly. This would eventually take Benton out of championship contention at Homestead Miami Speedway. From there on out, it was a tire battle. Eric Schaefer and Austin Reedy, 2 non-playoff drivers, tried to make it 3 wide on Moreno, but the 92 car would survive. After heavy contact with the 3 machine, Moreno took the lead, and that's where he never relinquished control. Stayed ahead of his teammate Maggio to capture his 2nd win of the 2025 season. This was Moreno's first ever 4-wide win at Charlotte, as he looks to capture a 2nd one tonight in SAAC. And that's today's KBRN Moment in Time. Good moment in time there. Moreno looking for his 2nd straight win here in the SAAC Cup Series, and it would be his 3rd straight, I believe, at the Charlotte Motor Speedway when you count 4 wide, dropping the hammer, and then this race tonight here in Concord, North Carolina. So you can try to go for a trifecta here on the KBueno Racing Network. I don't know, Francisco, if that's ever been done before in that way across several leagues, just one driver being able to win at one specific track. There probably is something between, I don't know, LWRC or the Bunge Lawn Care Series, but I know we didn't go that far back in time for the moment in time this evening, but I'd say it was still a great race with a lot of championship implications, and that was the race that settled out the championship 5 that would make it to Homestead. So honestly, with Moreno spoiling the party and the drivers in the playoffs trying to figure out where they will be at the end of that race, still was a lot of fun.
Always fun to show up here to Charlotte. And just really excited to get going here. We got just under 4 minutes to go in this warm-up session before we get into the grading portion of tonight's show. And I just kind of want to know, Kenneth, what are your thoughts and expectations after having driven the car with the brand new updates at multitude of different tracks? We got the opportunity to do that both Tuesday and Wednesday night, especially Wednesday after the updates. I got to do a couple more practice runs after the corrected for setups, but what I've noticed at the very least is that there seems to be a little bit more of a huge difference from track to track. There are some racetracks where it is really, really loose, and then there's some racetracks, more so specifically like Charlotte and Las Vegas in particular, that seem to handle a little bit more on the tight side. So I just kind of want to know your own personal thoughts on the brand new race car.
It's unpredictable, I'm gonna say that for sure. I mean, when the setups were initially released after the Season 3 build, I think a lot of us were taken by surprise. You know, you drove some hot track temperatures here and there. I drove a 142 track temp at Homestead Miami, and obviously that doesn't help with the grip side of things, but even then on a lower track temp setting, a lot of the 1.5 mile tracks, it is very unpredictable. It's a car that can really step out any given moment, and it is a tough one to drive. Way more difficult than what it ever was before the update came out. But Francisco, let's dive a little more into what this generation update is going to do for these NASCAR Next Gen cars, because not only is there the brand new tire model that was unveiled on the GTP and the LMP2 and a couple of other cars on the iRacing service, but it's a new aero model that was done in preparation and in cooperation with NASCAR. So this car in traffic handles way differently than it ever did. Dirty air, aero blocking, playing that game is now much more important in terms of trying to get to victory lane. What did you notice there as you drove the car and got a feel for what dirty air and trying to aero block and trying to deal with that air is like?
Well, I haven't really felt dirty air in the way that you would think. I haven't really had that kind of experience with the dirty air. Aero blocking, I would say that you actually don't want to be in front of somebody if they're right on your bumper. We've seen that packing air has really gotten the car in front of you significantly loose, and I think that's still in right as of right now. There's supposed to be another patch tomorrow, so I'm curious to see what they actually incorporate in that patch, if there's any more setup changes or even aerodynamic changes. I think if you're still right behind a driver, the car in front is going to get wicked loose. So we could see that throughout tonight, especially as they battle each other for the top spot. But all in all, I think it's interesting to see how the race will play tonight, knowing these factors. It could go either way, and adapting to this, if it is the status quo, whoever really figures it out first and figures it out well could see their season take a huge hike in terms of performance. But it really can go either way.
Yeah, and obviously that point about the first driver to get used to it is going to be the one with the upper hand, at least for a little while, until a lot of the other drivers find a way to get used to this car and figure out the ways they can extract as much speed as possible. You're watching some drivers right now in the warm-up session, just a little over half a minute until the drivers get onto the racing grid, and we'll give you the starting lineup for tonight's third race of the SAAC Cup Series Season 4 campaign. There's the 71, Jason Rajcock, one of the drivers that we'll get to know over the course of the year, and several other guys that you may have seen in some other series across the KBueno atmosphere. Trevor Haley being one of them, that Menard Chevrolet right in front of that teal and blue number 71 Chevrolet. Of course, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, Gabriel Dahari, Steven Maggio. A lot of the KBueno Racing drivers are ones that you've seen before, but maybe you recognize a name like Austin Doron, a driver who we've seen in the Work Series all those years ago. A couple guys as well that are in this session that maybe you'll get a hand on. Connor Trafari is a wide name across the iRacing service. That's somebody that we'll see on track here tonight as warm-up comes down to a close. So as we get to the starting grid, let's give you the lineup and how the drivers will stand when we get the green flag for 167 laps from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway, our first mile-and-a-half race since the update of the next-gen car. We're on the pole. It's the 72 car. Gabriel Dahari will lead the field to the green flag with a 29.207. He'll have the Nicholas Bauman machine for the KBRN team and the KBueno Racing stable. He'll start on the outside in second for the Pennsylvania driver. Devin Frank in the number 56 will line up inside of row 2 in third. Steven Maggio, the defending series champion, he'll try to capture his first crown and first victory of the season. He'll roll off on the outside in position number 4. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer in the top 5 spot. Brandon Thomas in the 7 machine going to be on the outside in row number 3. Before you find those doubled up in the 4th row, 7th and 8th, starts with Cody Riveras in the 36 car. Justin Rott in the number 8, the 76 car rather. He's going to be in the 8th spot. Rounding out the top 10, Amir Bascombe, who was short of the victory in our last mile-and-a-half race of the SAAC Cup Series at Las Vegas to close out the season. He'll be P9, and Dreddy Robinson joins us from the 45 car. He'll roll off on the outside in 10th.
Just missing out on the top 10 is Rivers Jones, the number 26. Our very own Keelan Belshow is going to be running in this series. He is in the 12th place position. Gino Mero will be rolling off from the 13th spot with Trevor Haley in the 14th place position. 15th goes to Austin Mitty alongside last week's race winner Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Christopher Robinson will be in the 17th spot with Daytona Victor Wyatt Roberts in the number 42. Donovan David is going to be in the 19th spot with Garrett White, former champion of other series. He's going to be in the 20th place position.
I'm going to say, you may mention that name, Garrett White, former champion in the Work Dynamo Designs National Series here on the KBueno Racing Network. Jason Marshall, 21st. Duncan Fall on the outside of row 11. His number 61 car will roll. Inside row 12, our fellow friend Alexander Schumacher in his number 68 KBRN Ford Mustang. He'll have James Bomar to the outside in position number 24. Traber Seaburns in the 02 car lines up inside the top 25. Ollie Reeves brings his number 31 machine from the outside in 26th place. Before you find Nicholas Borowski in the number 27 spot. Larry Miles in the number 30 car will be on the outside in 28th. And then rounding out the top 30, Jason Rajcock, that 71 car you saw in warm-up a little bit earlier on, and Zachary Bonsek in the 78 car.
31st goes to Shockey Tarpley. He drives the number 25 machine in 31st. Michael Walls in the number 24 will be in 32nd. 33rd is Austin Doran. You mentioned him there as well during the warm-up period. Paint scheme designer rolls off 33rd with Malachi Drake in the 34th position. Brad Sawinski will roll off in 35th with Ellis Wells in the number 57 in 36th. Declan George will be in the number 37th position alongside him. Jamie Wright in the 38th spot. And your final row of 40 cars that made tonight's race possible, Connor Zola will be 39th, and Gabe Cazzola was the last one to get in the 40th place spot. Everybody else, unfortunately, is going to be going home, and those drivers include Quincy Strawhacker, Joseph Wendt, Dale Beck, Connor Trafari, Nick Donati, and Seth Hood. All 6 of them going home tonight.
Tough for Connor Trafari, one of the staples in this series. Unfortunately, going to see his race from the stands instead of behind the wheel of the race car, as Dahari and Bauman will lead the field off of turn 4 for the first waving of the green flag on a mile-and-a-half track in the SAAC Cup Series Season 4. So we go 167 laps. That equals 250 miles from Concord, North Carolina, just a bit over 400 kilometers. It is a rather long race. Usually we see lots of leagues employ the 134 lap distance, which is just about 200-ish miles and a NIS length for Charlotte Motor Speedway. These drivers going a little longer. The test of discipline, the test of the new next-gen update, right here and right now. Dahari and Bauman to the green flag from Charlotte.
And 3 wide already. The back a car in the grass. That is Gino Mero in the 46 as they're going 3 wide through turn 1 already. He was able to keep it pointed in the right direction. Everybody else going down well down the front straight, and you can already see a little bit more spread out action in the front portion of the field. Looks like most of the top 10 kind of putting a bit of a gap on back, and it's going to be Gabriel Dahari with about a 3-car length lead off turn 4.
And look who's way up on the high side trying to make a move. The M&M's Chevrolet. Brandon Thomas just surged up to the high end of the 24 degrees of banking, and now in the fight for position number 4. Right behind them, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, that Sim Seats Ford Mustang down low. 45 car, Andretti Robinson in this 4-car battle for 5th.
Looks like there was a couple cars that were exiting pit road, potential pit lane starters. Those include Traber Burns and Connor Zola. So they're already 1 lap down in this race, and they're going to be immediately thrusted into a battle for the lucky dog position as they're 3 wide in the middle of the pack.
Just want to correct ourselves here. Connor Trafari, we mentioned he was going to miss the race. Well, he's here in 25th, now 24th place, moving up through the field. So Trafari making it in through a points provisional, even though he missed out on qualifying. That Crystal Lady Design Chevrolet now weaving up through the field. Solid progress for Trafari already inside this top 25 and working on Donovan David, that number 4 car right in front, as several battles loom in the distance through the mid-pack. But Francisco, one thing we will notice about this next-gen car update is because of the dirty air, because of the new drafting model, it's much harder to stay in a pack of cars over the course of the long run. So you'll see a lot more separation through the field, and with a lot of the testing done at 1.5 mile tracks between this series and many others that you and I, Francisco, had a chance to partake in, you see a lot more separation, a lot more comers and goers with this new model, with the new tires, and with the way the track handles with this car. So you won't necessarily see pack racing at about 180 miles an hour down these straightaways.
And you'll probably see drivers attempt to go in different lines to get out of the dirty air, try to see something else that works. And most notably here at Charlotte Motor Speedway in particular, that outside lane, you can carry some serious momentum around these corners, especially 1 and 2. So we could see that throughout the night. There's Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, who we've seen in plenty other leagues. He's had a couple of good runs here at Charlotte in the past, and right now runs in the 7th place position. So he's looking to attack to possibly get into a spot in the top 5, and it's not going to be easy. You can already see fairly spread out as the first 6 cars are all about a second apart. Normally they would be about half a second apart, but right now you see the battle there just in front of Jurgensmeyer. That's Andretti Robinson and Brandon Thomas, who have been going at it since the first lap.
These two side by side, that is for 5th place in turn 3. And Jurgensmeyer right behind Justin Roth, that GOAT Chevrolet red and blue car right in the background. He's going to try and merge. Thomas out to the outside wall, and again will invite Robinson for a chance at the inside. Bit of help from Draft, but already Devin Frank, that 4th place car, has pulled away swiftly, while Gabriel Dahari leads by about 2 car lengths over Nicholas Bauman. The front row unchanged from the drop of the green flag, and now defending champ Steven Maggio will take a peek on Bauman. Potential battle for 2nd through 3 and 4.
And those two drivers are familiar with battling each other, especially at this racetrack, when they were trying to race for a championship 5 spot. A little bit further back in the field is James Bomar. He's going to be a name that we talk about in the battle for the win before this night is over. Right now running in just behind the Duncan Fall and Christopher Robinson machine, but that 15 trying to work his way up through this top 20 and eventually get up there into the top 5 or 10.
One of the several drivers that we've seen before on the KBueno Racing Network, racing with Garrett White, Austin Duran, and many others in the Work Dynamo Designs National Series. Bomar, the 22-year-old from Sumter, South Carolina. We'll see his name crack up a lot here in this SAAC Cup Series as he works through the mid-pack. You watch that battle for the lead, which is not necessarily a battle at all. Still 2 car lengths with Dahari, Maggio, and Bauman. So Maggio was able to find a way by the 81 car, and the 51 now moves into 2nd. Speak of Moreno being one of those strong Charlotte drivers, can never count out Maggio, the New York native from Cairo, making his way into P2.
Right now running in 2nd, also another driver that's really good on Thursday nights, or on Wednesday nights. We'll see what this transitions for him here.
Average finish of 3 in the last 2 races, or the first 2 races of the season so far, from Daytona and Michigan. 2 tracks that, even before this update, very hard to make track position gain at Michigan is a super speedway style race. Daytona, of course, the same. There's a bit more tire saving, a bit more discipline involved in racing in Michigan, but of course still comes down to who you have to help you, and so far and so forth. The 3 career SAAC wins, his last one coming at our last mile and a half race, a late race season 3, the championship finale at Las Vegas. How about battle for 4th? There's Andretti Robinson, Devin Frank, the inside of turn 2. We saw Andretti Robinson fall back a little bit via the battle between himself, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, and a couple of other drivers, Brandon Thomas among those included. Frank was able to pull away, but all of a sudden now he's reeled back in this long single file lane of cars. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer down there, Rott, Thomas, Haley, goes all the way back to Cody Riveras at the edge of this top 10, and then you'll see a bit of a separation before you find the winner from last week's race in Michigan in Moreno. Now here comes Jurgensmeyer to the inside for 5th. All about tire wear with this next-gen car and the new update. And one thing that the driver base noted from this series and many others as the caution is out, a lot of tire wear through the early portions of the run, and there's a spinner down the tri-oval and the quad-oval point of the racetrack. Dunham and David among those involved, and I believe Michael Walls is in there as well, that William Byron inspired number 24. And there is trouble, our first yellow, 13 laps in the books. Zachary Bonsek there, car involved. He's 35th.
And we'll see the replay here exactly how this first incident was brought upon us, and it took a good bit. It must say it surprised me. I'm not sure how much track time some of these drivers have gotten with the brand new car, but here it is nonetheless. 78 on the inside. Actually happens further up ahead. Looks like Michael Walls was sideways, goes out in front of the field, and there's Alexander Schumacher in a piece of it as well, just further up in front. I wasn't sure who was quite the other car that got into his right front, but here's the onboard with 57 of Ellis Wells. Contact happens further up in front, gets a 24 sideways. Across the field, there's the 78, and yeah, it's gonna be possibly race-ending damage for the 57, and Schumacher gets hit right on that right front tire, right front suspension. Could be several minutes of optional repairs for the 68 as well.
Well, Ellis was one of those drivers who was very kind to give us his driver cam for tonight, and already to tell you how much damage he has, he is not in his simulator right now. It is an empty chair in his room, so Ellis Wells, with all of that damage, may just be one of our first DNFs of the night from Charlotte Motor Speedway after a big crash ignites there off of turn 4. So Alexander Schumacher involved in that, his Ford Mustang down pit road, and several others will follow. A lot of drivers already taking Goodyear Eagles tonight, and that's something that we'll see over the course of this race, Francisco, in a series that does not have stages. We'll go as long as the green flag will let us, and because of that, we noticed that extra tire wear on this next-gen car in comparison to before the update came out on the iRacing service. So we may see more calls like this, drivers coming in earlier than expected.
Well, what I've noticed is that the numbers themselves seem to be going up, but the actual lap times are not affected by the percentages and their drastic changes. So I think what it'll mostly do is warrant people from taking 2 tires even after a super long run on a fuel stint. So if you run a full distance on fuel, you're most likely required to take 4 tires, so you don't actually blow a tire out at the end of the run. Otherwise, I think it's going to be mostly the same as far as feel and handling.
Well, for most of the field, they end up staying out. There's Dahari, Maggio, and Bauman, your current running top 3, as we'll click off the 15th lap here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Solid green flag run right before the trouble ensued at the back of the field, with Walls getting sideways off of that a little bit of transition between the 24 degrees of banking in turn 4 and that 5 degrees that you find right here on this quad oval portion of the racetrack. So Dahari, the Texan, will lead us back to the green flag. He'll choose the inside for this restart, with Bauman and Maggio your top 3. And this series does implement the choose cone, so you see Stephen Maggio right at the back end of row 2. That's by design. You choose the inside lane. You'll try to get some help from Dahari and maybe a bit of Devin Frank there on the inside of row 3. Andretti Robinson, who was in that fight for 4th place with Frank. Those 2 Ford Mustangs are going to be side by side as soon as they get back to turn 1, probably with the momentum we've seen out of the bottom end of the speedway. But it's hard not to mention, Francisco, what we've seen before in races here at Charlotte. Our KBR moment in time definitely showed us that first gear restarts, wheel spin, and trouble before they get to turn 1.
Yeah, that's something we're gonna watch for all night long, no matter what. We had two consecutive 4-wide races here where before they get to the start-finish line, we already had our car sideways. So, gotta keep an eye out for that. Make sure you probably don't want to restart in first gear. They've also made spinning the tires a lot easier through the gears, so we could be seeing a lot more second gear restarts, or at least that would be the smart consensus move if you want to avoid lighting up the rear tires and finding yourself facing backwards from the front.
A lot of drivers took part in that practice session yesterday. A lot of practice races here at Charlotte just to get acclimated to this car and the setup. And a lot of the feedback was, do not start in first gear. Please be in second gear or else those rear tires will light up. But it is a risk that some drivers may be willing to take. Some wiggles out of the bottom end of the inside row. Green flag back in the air. Tahari leads him to turn 1.
And already further back through the field, we're getting that 3 wide that we're going to be seeing throughout the evening, deep into the mid-pack. And at the front, mostly single file. There you see the side-by-side for the 4th place position between Andretti Robinson and Devin Frank in the 56. As you see all the way to the top side, that's Cody Rivera's in the number 36. He was trying to make that outside work in that opening run, and he's right back to it here.
In the large pack of cars, 40 deep, some less, but for the most part, everyone's still here. And we are side by side, more than 2 to 3 rows deep. There's Garrett White, that black and white Chevrolet inside of this battle into the top 10 with Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And then that dark green, number 36 of Rivera's making the move on the high side of Devin Frank. Frank is starting to fall back, and there's a bit of that dirty air caught from the rear end of Jonathan Juergensmeyer's Ford Mustang. Car washed up, had to back out the throttle, and now may succumb to this battle behind him. Brandon Thomas, Garrett White, in this fight for the top 10, back to turn 1.
And the last time around off of turn 2, Gino Mero got right to the back of Keelan Belch, and he experienced that air packing scenario because he overcorrected into the outside wall. And there around goes the 56 of Devin Frank.
And you go up into Thomas, the 12 car is well involved of Christopher Robinson and more drivers in it. Huge crash in turn 3. And the yellow flag ignites. Belcher getting turned late. The 38 car, Jamie Wright, is involved. The 31 of Ollie Reeves is in there. In the background, Justin Rock getting involved. Trevor Haley, the 19 car, getting a part of this incident. And our longest crash of the night, and our biggest crash as well, ignites only 5 laps after the green flag restart.
And it looked like it maybe stemmed from a side draft gone wrong. We'll get a second look at it to confirm, as Keelan Belcher got a piece. I was talking about how he had some kind of damage lap previous and lost 10 positions from air getting packed on his spoiler from Maro taking it 3 wide through the middle. But here's a look at the incident that actually brings out the caution. Frank moves up, and there goes the 40 to the inside. And it looks like it is a side draft gone wrong. It's what we've seen historically with this car, Kenneth. It's the side drafting that leads into a spin. I must say that to see that happening here early on, immediately after the update, is a little bit upsetting. I've talked about it for months on end, how that is something that they need to fix with this race car, because it's an automatic spin for the car on the outside, and unfortunately that's something that's still in here.
Here's a look from Keelan Belcher at the back end of this field. That's Ollie Reeves right in front. And there seemed to have been an independent crash from the first bit of contact with Devin Frank, and then while everyone's slowing down, Justin Rock gets loose. He overcorrects. Belcher also snaps away. And there's Ollie Reeves on the high side, the 38 car, Jamie Wright. There's the downward spiral for Brandon Thomas, the 7 car, and Devin Frank involved in that, of course. And then Belcher kind of got beached here on this transition between the apron and the banking on the racetrack, but thankfully was able to get his Toyota Camry out of harm's way. So a huge crash ignites in turn 3 off of just a bit of side drafting drama between Garrett White and then the spinning Devin Frank. And a really heartbreaking effort there, Francisco, with Devin Frank. He was having a solid race at the beginning, some decent short run speed, and obviously not a lot of the drivers very able to extend the green flag scenario past 20-ish laps to see what really would happen if the tires really start getting to the end of their lifespan. But there's all the damage to the 56 Ford Mustang. A lot of it on the right front, and he'll spend his time on pit road with plenty others trying to nurse their cars all the way to the end.
They got a lot of time to fix their cars. That's the good thing they have going for them. And as long as there continues to be attrition, there's going to be yellow flags and opportunities to repair their cars and try and fight their way back to this race. The troublesome part is that as of right now, there's just so many cars on the racetrack that track position is going to be very hard to come by. As there you see Mr. Keelan Belsha right there riding around under caution. How do you think he could feel if we got a chance to talk to him?
I think he'd be all right. I think he's one of those guys that, for our sake, you know, he would be fine with us just talking to him under the green flag, which for a lot of drivers is stressful. But right now he's in his voice chat. I don't think we're going to be able to pull him up. Last time he raced in a KBueno broadcasted series, it was the 4-wide racing series at Talladega, and ended up just basically a spot or two short from the eventual race winner in Ethan Fonseca Moreno. So I guess there's good luck to be had with Keelan Belsha, although he did get involved in this recent spill. He does walk away with limited to no damage, so Belsha will be able to get away scot-free. Not the same for a bulk of the others at the back of the field now. Declan George, Justin Rott, Rivers Jones, Devin Frank, of course, Jamie Wright, Alex Schumacher, and even though Garrett White did not lose a lot of his track position, he's still in 8th. May also be some damage for his number 40 Chevrolet as we continue on. I think he'll be okay for right now, but any moments could very well drastically alter the rest of your race. With this new aerodynamic update, could very well change the way these cars drive when you're in the middle of the draft and when you have a bit of damage on the car as well. So it's BBR still 1, 2, 3. All laps led by this man right here, Gabriel Zahari, as he'll take Nicholas Baumann and the rest of the others to the green flag restart at lap 23.
And you see a little bit of a stack up on the outside lane from Nicholas Baumann. That's going to allow Maggi to clear for second. Jurgensmeyer is going to get an opportunity to try to move up into third. And it's going to be interesting to see how the tires shake up throughout the field. The highest runner of those that have already made a pit stop in this race is the 52 of Austin Duran. He's making a move outside 3 wide. You see with Bomar on the bottom, those two trying to enter back into the top 15 with those fresh tires.
And Baumann, who restarted on the outside of the front row, already hemorrhaging positions. He may be outside of the top 5 by the time we get to the next couple of laps. That choose cone came right into the favor of Baumann on the last green flag restart, but with Maggio there, he chose the inside. Baumann went up high, and it's a decision that the 81 car may start to rethink a little longer here as White pushes to the inside. Doron trying to cut through the field all the way, and there's a spinner, and it's Cody Riveras hard into the inside wall. He takes another car with him, and it may just have been Amir Bascom, car number 21. It is. Yellow flag out for the 3rd time tonight, and it's the Live Golf Ford Mustang along with the 2nd place car at our last mile-and-a-half race at Las Vegas, involved in the mayhem.
It's not been a easy couple laps ever since we got that one restart or that one caution flag. It has been attrition ever since, and it looks like it was just a 2-car incident on this particular case. So here's the replay. There's the 21, there's the 36. It looks like maybe the 36 tried to give himself some space to the wall, perhaps coming off of turn 2, and made some slight contact with the 21. We'll see what the onboard from Mr. Amir Bascom says as he was running the line at the bottom. Riveras has been running the top ever since the drop of the green flag. There's the gap, and it looks like it was just that. He moves away from the wall off the corner and just goes right in front of the 21.
You know how the last incident was caused by side drafting gone wrong? This is just pure contact between those two at the same place in which White and Devin Frank made the contact. It's just a little harder, and that touch, of course, will send the driver spinning into the inside wall. So Bascom potentially gets suspension damage, and for, of course, the driver also involved in the 36 of Cody Riveras. A promising start turned sour. He'll join the rest of the field. A lot of the guys in the mid-pack coming down pit road, a lot of those to assure that the damage on their Chevrolets, Toyotas, and Fords will be prepared in enough time for the next green flag restart. So Austin Duran, the one man to gamble on fresh tires alongside some others. James Bomar, Jason Radcock, Ollie Reeves. The list kind of continues from there on guys who hit pit road recently, but focus on particularly Bomar and Duran. As they came home for 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, went right back on the racetrack, and so far, that call for early stoppage is working out in their favor. They just cracked the top 15. They haven't had a good chance, Francisco, to get a lick of more clean air and more track position as this race has gone to a flurry of yellows very quickly. But for those two, I'd say right now their strategy playing out really well, and we're kind of curious at how the new tire versus old tire strategy will work out, because we did hear early on after that update came out with these cars in the new tire model that you can stay out on old tires and still be just as fast as everyone else. So it's a working experiment in real time between Doran and Bomar at how long it'll take for them to crack into the top 10 and make an effort for the top spot.
We'll see how it works out. I mean, with these caution flags, it's not allowed the tires for the leaders to really wear out all that much, and it's not giving them a big opportunity to try and make up the track positions with the ones they took. So they're continuing to stay out for the most part and run laps here, which could possibly help them save some of these sets. They do have 8 available, which is actually a pretty solid amount to work with for this 167 laps, as the lights have just turned on here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as we're approaching the nighttime. With 8 sets of total tires available for this race, that is plenty to go through, so there's going to be chances for some of these guys to bring it down pit road and throw a set on and just try to throw caution to the wind and try and get some track position with it, which is going to be better for us. You see the track temperature at 81. I think it will be better for us if when they try these kind of strategies. We'll see cars going up to the front, maybe some others maybe drifting to the back. We'll just have to see as this plays out, but we need a run for that to happen.
You know, back in 2021, when the NASCAR drivers were testing the next-gen car and they were really hammering down on what eventually became the 4-inch spoiler and that 670 horsepower package for the intermediate tracks, particularly here at Charlotte where they did that test in the winter time, a lot of drivers at the moment said that the car would reward comers and goers. Well, in this new update for iRacing, drivers had to relearn the car. It's brand new territory, and so we may just see that phenomenon happen once again. But so far, the fresh tire cars sitting 14th and 15th. From there on back, a ton of other guys that have hit pit road at least once or more tonight. Plenty of those for damage repair. This time, Dahari is joined by Juergensmeyer on the outside of the front row. Green flag raises. Juergensmeyer disconnects for a moment. Everyone bobbles up on the outside lane trying to get going. And we're back under green from Charlotte.
Dahari clears for the top spot already. Gets down in front of Steven Maggio as they'll clear for the top 2 spots. They've been doing this so well when they've raced together, as Juergensmeyer now has to fend off Nicholas Baumann for that 3rd spot. As there's Garrett White already in the top 5, trying to see if he can get by those 2 in front of him. And Austin Doran already making some good moves. He's working his way up through 13th, trying to get past Gino Mera for the 12th place spot. And look who is showing up to the party a little bit further up in front. It's Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who's worked his way up to 6th.
Charging his way into the top 10, a guy who knows a thing or two about winning here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. And he'll watch this side-by-side battle right in front for 4th place. Garrett White, Nicholas Baumann single file out, Andretti Robinson behind. There's Trafari working his way into the top 8. Remember, he started deep outside of the top 25. Missed out on qualifying with the 45-ish drivers that made it, or at least tried to make it through qualifying. And Trafari, with the way he pointed out in last season's edition of this SAAC Cup Series, was able to get that provisional to move on through. And car number 9 to the inside, working his way to the top 7.
And right now, Austin Doran side by side with Duncan Fall gets that place. So now move the 52 up to 11th. And Bomar not too far behind. He is moving through, following that 52 through most of this field. A couple of cars getting into the outside wall. Looks like Fall and possibly the 49 as also, or 42 also got into the wall there. So we're seeing a couple of cars strike the outside wall. A lot of that is something we see normally out of Charlotte, but possibly the enhanced tightness of the handling of the cars right now could throw that into a bigger range than we've seen in the past.
We've also seen some examples of guys following in the line of others, and they really have to back up the entry or the mid-corner speed of their race car. And a good example here was Shockey Tarpley, the inside car, number 25, in that fight with Jason Marshall. And then, of course, that fresh tire machine of Austin Doran with James Bomar right behind. You're running the same line as someone else, you're going to find that understeer effect. And that's why you see Tarpley just getting that headlight, the right side of the race car, right above the seam where Trafari is running, just in the attempt to get a bit more of that clean air. But the separation is kicked in with the side-by-side battles that we have watched already. Meanwhile, fight for 2nd place has basically dissipated. Maggio got the best of Juergensmeyer, and all the way at the back, Austin Doran is starting to peak on top of James Bomar, the 2 fresh tire cars in the fight inside the top 10.
Bomar on the inside gets the job done there, so he moves up another position into the top 10 here. He's going to now chase down to 25 of Shockey Tarpley. Further back, there's the number 30, Larry Miles, in a battle inside the top 20. You see the 42 further up there. That's Wyatt Roberts, Daytona winner. He moves up trying to battle the number 3 of Jason Marshall. That's for the 16th spot. You see sideways further back, an incident, big crash here in the tri-oval.
And there's a lot of drivers involved. Schumacher, Jones, Rott, and the rest of the drivers get through. Malachi Drake involved. He's on the inside grass. And another huge spill at the exit of turn 4. Rivers Jones is torn up.
Big damage to the front end of his race cars. Got some suspension damage in it as well. A couple other guys have also got some pretty damage. See the hood flapping on that car. It's probably got some required damage repairs here. His night in contention for the win is possibly over. And several others also got a piece of that accident. We'll get a look here on the replay to see exactly how this all started. We kind of saw it early on as it was just about to start. There you see 3 wide feint, and then the 90 gets tapped. Looks like the 78 and 76 gets sideways. They go hard into the outside wall. Justin Rout probably going to be out of this race as well with that hit to the quad oval wall. And I think lower on the inside, we saw Keelan Belsha perhaps get a piece of it and spin through the grass as some of the cars were coming off the wall and driving towards the bottom of the racetrack, trying to get way out of the way. Here's the onboard with Alexander Schumacher in the process.
A Bjorn Carr was involved in a similar accident in the quad oval, the Port Huron, Michigan native. And they go straight into the outside wall, but they ricochet back up the racetrack. That is what is the disaster spell for Schumacher there. Jones getting the heaviest hit of them all. Justin Rott involved in a secondary caution. There's the 17 car as well, Declan George. And the 78 is Zachary Bonsek.
The leaders have all come down pit road. First one to stay out is James Bomar and Austin Doran. Remember, they were on that alternate strategy, so now they'll have track position. But these guys right here, now they're going to have significantly fresher tires probably than just about everybody else. So we'll see what that does for them and their strategy. But the problem for them, they're going to lose probably a decent bit of track position as they race their way off pit road. You see Gabriel Dahari, the first one out. He'll probably restart in 10th, it seems. Steven Maggio, then Ethan Fonseca, who's had a great pit stop to get third off of pit road here in that battle for off of pit road. But interesting to see now what the top 9 with these alternate strategies is going to do. The one on the oldest tires who has yet to pit in this race is Brad Sawinski in the 28. He has not pitted in this race so far and is still running in the 3rd spot. Your leaders and 4th place runner Ollie Reeves pitted a handful of laps ago, 21 ago, and then everybody from 5th through 8th pitted a little bit more recently, having made their last pit stop 15 laps ago. So a little bit of variance in strategy, but generally the same idea of having already made a pit stop, except for the 28 who's not brought it down pit road.
You know what this is going to be, Francisco? A statement of game on for the top 9 as they'll stay out on these old tires. Of course, a lot of them burned off their first set of Goodyear Eagles early in the race, so it's more of a move possibly out of necessity than it is just choice. But for the most part here, with Dahari and the drivers right behind, now they have a chance to weave through the field in dirty air, something that Dahari has not faced all night long. He spent the entirety of this race up until right now in control of the field. So first time that the B-Movie Chevrolet ends up in this scenario, and we'll see how he deals with it with his teammate Moreno, his teammate Maggio right behind, as James Bomar and Brad Sawinski will lead the field back to the restart at lap 38. And just a reminder, Francisco, a lot of the viewers watching, they could put the hashtag AskKBueno in the YouTube chat. They want to ask us something, we can get the conversation going.
Absolutely. Feel free to send the hashtag, ask a question to us. It could be about anything. We'll answer it to the best of our abilities. And you know, I do want to get this out there, Kenneth, while we still have this opportunity under the caution. For those of you that, if you weren't listening to the news earlier today, of course, that unfortunate incident that happened over at Air India, Boeing 787, crashing just after takeoff. No number exactly confirmed on the lives lost, but it doesn't look like it's a pretty incident, and just an unfortunate situation in the aviation community.
Yep, really terrible. First ever crash for the Boeing 787 Dreamliner after that plane, which was, I believe, 11 years old, delivered in 2013 to Air India, crashed shortly after takeoff from Ahmedabad Airport on the way to London Gatwick. So our thoughts and our minds are with all of the victims and their families in that huge crash that happened earlier this morning. Green flag back in the air for lap 38. James Bomar, the PepsiCo Toyota Camry, will lead them back to turn 1. And with Austin Doron, Brad Sawinski on the inside row, trying to filter themselves out. Sawinski in that green Chevrolet on the outside lane. I believe that's a Rocky Top Mountain car. I forget the sponsor there, but it was a part of NASCAR years ago. Top 2 staying up at the front. Dahari and company trying to cut their way through on the fresh tires.
And that was a poor restart for Donovan David, who just did not get up to speed all that well, and it stacked up the inside lane for a good portion. It allowed Dahari and some of those that restarted on the outside lane to get at least a little bit of an easier opportunity to make some passes. You see the 0-2 there get stuck behind one of those cars on the inside. You could see this just by ending up on the wrong enough line. Moreno gets stuck there, as well as Maggio looks to have gotten ahead of Gabriel Dahari in the process, and he's now running down after your battle for third, and he's got a big run here off of turn 3 or turn 4. He could try to go 3 wide.
And Bauman basically looking at 3 abreast on the outside of the racetrack, nearly got to the top side of the car right in front and nearly sent him into the wall. It is pandemonium at the back and continuous 3 wide as there's more trouble. Bauman found his way loose. The field goes by to the inside and the chaos continues back to turn 3.
It was Bauman that got into the outside wall. I saw him sideways, possibly some contact, and he ended up sideways. A good save by Bauman, but it looked reminiscent of his incident in 4 wide, though that was on turn 4. He's going to continue going for a net right now, but he's dropped some positions here. He's down into 15th.
We'll keep an eye on that Baja Blast Mountain Dew number 81. Here's a look from Doron riding second. Remember Ollie Reeves, Steven Maggio right behind on 2 different strategies. Alongside your leaders, Maggio on the freshest set of Goodyear Eagles just now is the pole sitter and race leader up until the green flag restart. Gabriel Dahari making his move to P4. And now Ollie Reeves trying to look in for third. Maggio slicing to the inside. The KBRN Toyota Camry is not here to play around, and he makes the move down low for third.
Making that pass on the inside is not going to be easy. It's just such a tight car there running that lower line. Even if you wrap the paint the right way, even with the tire advantage, you see the nose just want to take off on that race car. It's not going to be easy. Ollie Reeves, even with the older tires, is going to be able to hold off Maggio for now. It's going to take Maggio a good run, a good exit, a little bit of a side draft to clear him into a corner and possibly slide job his way clear of the 31. And you see right now, even with those fresher tires, he's got about 20 or so, 30 or so lap fresher tires than those in front of him. He's not able to just get right around them due to that dirty air and lack of being able to get a run.
Well, it's more of a question of how disciplined, how patient are you going to be if you're Steven Maggio in the attempt to get around Ollie Reeves, because we know the top 3, knowing that they've got older tires, but they can still keep their way up front via the aero blocking method. They're going to try their best to stay as aggressive as possible and forbid the BBR cars from moving their way to the front. Already understeer caught on the rear end of Ollie Reeves' Chevrolet. Here comes Maggio planting and firing to the inside in turn 3.
And he's almost clear, and he's going to try to slide it up, and he throws it in there, and in the process, he gets to the outside of Duran with help from Reeves.
And now it's going to be a push to the outside, a lane that's preferred for most of the field as the tires have worn down. Maggio slices through the middle, and he's got position number 2, and now it's half a second between himself and the car staying out on older tires now. James Bomar, now here comes Dahari trying to weave his way through the 3-car mess.
And he's going to have that outside run here. Could try the crossover on the front straight. He actually gets to the outside. Reeves has to check up, and he's going to lose multiple positions.
And now in the fight, Garrett White, how about nearly 3 wide as they head to turn 1? That was Reeves trying to back out of a moment's notice. Moreno makes his move on the high side of the banking. Doron has a chance to respond. He'll get trapped in the dirty air, and for the first time all night long, there may just be a proper battle for the lead. Now inside 0.2 of a second between Bomar and Maggio.
This is going to be a one-on-one straight-up battle for the top position. No draft or possible teammates to help unless Dahari can close that gap. And we'll see how the fresher tires and what kind of line he decides to run. We've talked about that high side being able to carry so much more momentum. We'll see when Maggio decides to use it. It's going to be not easy for him to just run right behind Bomar and expect to make the pass, not with this new car.
And there's a battle further back in the field. I believe that's Duncan Fall. This is battle for 18th. With Jason Ratchcock, the 71 car in the background. Jonathan Juergensmeyer, who was at once in this top 5, had fallen back. Remember, he did come down pit road alongside Maggio. Dahari
Oh,
now
wreck,
with
there's
a
a 20.
spinner right in front of them as they come off of turn number 4, and it is the car on the oldest set of tires, Brad Sawinski, involved off the final corner. The 17 of Declan George, the red and white Ford Mustang, also getting a piece.
Looks like he's got some suspension damage. He's kind of swerving the car as he's getting back up to speed. Here is Declan George. And obviously we saw the 28 of Brad Sawinski go sideways. We'll get a look and see what it's like. But he ran nearly 50 laps on that set of tires, so he's going to put on his first set here. He's probably done a good job of saving those sets early on. And it looks like he got aero loose first, Kenneth, if I'm going to be honest, and maybe then got a little bit of assistance with the bumper, but it doesn't look like that's what caused him to go sideways in the first place.
Shockey Tarpley, that Valiant Chevrolet right in the background. Here's a look from Sawinski.
You're going to see them close the gap up, and we talked about how the cars get loose, and sure enough, he goes sideways well before the bumper ever comes up to the back of his race car, but it certainly didn't help his chances of trying to save that race car.
So that's the situation to bring out the recent yellow. Here come the old tire cars on pit road. A usual call for these guys. Bomar, Doron, Reeves, among those that are in. That's Tarpley. The Valiant car is in as well. Rajcock was at the back end of that battle before the spin occurred. Sawinski, of course, is in. Keelan Belsha is in. Donovan David is in. And the list continues. Michael Walls is there on pit road, still repairing his car. Amir Bascom is staying in this race, although he picked up all of that front-end damage as a part of that recent crash off of turn 2. So in the midst of that, it will bring Steven Maggio to the front of the field with Dahari, Garrett White, and Ethan Fonseca-Moreno and Connor Trafari inside the top 5. And how about the moments of moving up through the field for this Chris Lilly Designs number 9 car of Trafari? He has been aggressive. He was all the way at the back of this field. Again, missed out in the top 40 through qualifying, got the provisional to move his way into the field when the green flag raised, but he had to be all the way at the back, and he weaved to the top 25. He got into the top 10, and now through strategy, Trafari in a race-high 5th.
Slowly but surely, it's not about where you start, it's about how you finish, and he was able to guarantee a spot due to how good of a performance he was able to have throughout the most previous season, and got his way into this race, and he's making the biggest advantage of it right now, running in the top 5, and he clearly is showing some fast speed in his race car, some ability with the tires, and as this race goes on, we'll see if he's able to hold that throughout the different strategies, throughout a possible green flag run later on, and see if he contends for a decent enough result here. And I gotta tell you, Kenneth, I know I'm not the only one when I say this. I have the score of the Panthers and Oilers game here on the side. I keep checking up on it just to make sure, it's Stanley Cup and NBA Finals time. Pacers went up 2-1 last night, and it looks like the Panthers might go up 3-1 here on these Oilers.
I'm hearing, Francisco, it's a Matthew Tkachuk show right now. They were up 3-0 earlier on in the game, and Tkachuk has been lights out. And after game 2, in which the Oilers sparked a ton of fights with the Panthers, it was 5-on-5 fighting on the ice. It was more fist fighting than it was actual hockey at one point, but the Panthers have squeaked away with a game 2 win, and they're possibly going to dominate their way to a game 4 victory as they come through. Game 3, is it? Or game 4?
Game 4.
Game 4. All right, so I just had it a bit mixed up, but I was looking earlier at Gino Mero, that Smart Food Toyota Camry. Well, again, one of those drivers that raced here on the KBueno Racing Network. If you recall that Work Dynamo Designs National Series, Mero was a part of the championship runners at the end of the season. And Mero, a native of Oklahoma City, which right now they're down 2-1 to the Indiana Pacers. So that weaves right into the topic of the NBA Finals.
And we have a couple of Indianapolis natives here in, I believe, Nicholas Bauman and Trevor Haley.
Yep, Trevor from Indiana. Not sure what city he was in. He has not revealed that to us. He's always been an Indiana native. Don't know from where, but we know a couple of drivers from the Indiana area. A lot of the drivers in this series now getting ready for this restart. Lap 51, and a huge push from Dahari gets Maggio way out in front. Garrett White going to settle to 3rd place.
And Bauman missed a shift on the restart. They're now 3 wide for that position. Bauman on the outside, Mero through the middle, and Rivera's on the very bottom of the racetrack. That's just outside the top 10. There's Bauman in the 81 off of turn 2. It looks like he's recovered, but he's lost a couple of positions as there's Dahari peeking to the inside, but it's Garrett White pushing Maggio on the outside.
Dahari has no help. Maggio switches out in front. It'll deal some dirty air to the 72 car, and it puts Garrett White near the outside wall. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all within maybe half a second as they head back to turn 1.
Andretti Robinson also showing up to this fight as well. He could be one to contend with in that Hennessy number 45. And you see mostly single file throughout this top 10, top 15, as they're not able to really stay side by side. Duncan Fall peeks out for a moment. And James Bowmore, one of those that pitted for tires here, is already up to the 10th place position. There you see the 15 there, creeping up to the inside of Gino Marrow. He's going to do so here on the front straightaway. He's got Duncan Fall in front of him. We'll see where the 15 decides to go. He doesn't want to be behind anybody with those fresher tires.
He's the only fresh tire car right now in the top 10. The next guy in line, Traber C. Burns, the 02 car, running 13th. Austin Drawn, nowhere to be found. He's in 19th right now, working his way through the field. Here comes Bomar. Look to the inside on the bright orange and black Duncan Fall machine. And Gino Miro getting his nose right in front. And Bomar dealing with the dirty air off of turn 4. It is a monster that turns its ugly head when a car steps out in front right as you exit Charlotte Motor Speedway. We've talked before, Francisco, about how this track, in comparison to a lot of the other intermediates, is a different game that you have to play. It's much narrower. It feels tighter than maybe a Chicagoland, a Kansas, a Homestead. The list continues. Charlotte is in its own right. Although it's built like a cookie cutter, it handles very differently.
You know what they say, how when you look down at Google Maps, it looks like it's the same thing, but when you sit there and you're actually driving around, that's when you start to really feel the differences and the characteristic of each racetrack. And as this surface has aged, it's really built some character, some roughness to the racetrack, but it's also, for how narrow it is in terms of distance across the racetrack, it's really created some really wide lines that really make that outside lane work. So as this night progresses and the cars get tighter in the long run, we could see drivers eventually get all the way up to that outside wall.
Here's the onboard look from Cody Riveras, that Live Golf Ford Mustang. We saw him involved in an earlier caution in this race, but he's been relentless. He fixed up his Ford Mustang, and he's back now inside the top 15, working under that Nicholas Baumann 81 car, as they're sideways right in front, and Riveras splits them 3 wide. Traber, Burns, and Duncan Fall had to keep their cars from catastrophe in turns 1 and 2, and they're still 3 wide.
What a save, as cars are still going all over the place trying to hang on to it. That's Doran that nearly gets into the apron and drifts up into the 42. That's a close call the entire way, and there goes the 42.
There's Wyatt Roberts, the spinner. Jurgensmeyer, the 01 car. Austin Mitty hard into the outside wall. And the trouble spot that has caused several yellows tonight, Francisco, ends up with another one.
And that's race over for the 01. He went hard into the outside wall, head on, at full speed into that quad oval section. Jurgensmeyer had a hard hit as well. He's rolling out on the racetrack, but he's got some significant damage. So a couple guys here could be seeing the end of the race. First one to go sideways was Daytona winner Wyatt Roberts.
Driver who picked up success in the opening race of the season, now having to work his way back up. Not as much damage through his Chevrolet, but a lot of damage to others. Jurgensmeyer among those with a heavy hit. Of course, Austin Mitty, that huge touch to the outside wall. So let's get a moment and see how this all began. By the way, this was because Duncan Fall and company got loose in the middle of the corner, and that's exactly what brought out the moment that leads up to the yellow flag. So here is Fall, outside look on Ollie Reeves. They're going to be battling nicely for position, and as we were getting the onboard look from Cody Riveras, that's where the trouble ensues. Riveras gets to the inside of Baumann. Duncan Fall and company get loose off of turn 2, and that is basically what stacks the entire field up. We're on the lap before, so we'll go in extra time. There's Riveras to the bottom. We were on board with him then. But Francisco, the air packs on the rear end of these 2 cars right here, the 02 of Burns, and they make contact in turn 1. It slows them up. Riveras slices through the middle. Baumann also makes his way through, but you start 3 wide, you make it nearly 4, and there will be trouble.
Right now we have split strategies as Steven Maggio, Garrett White, they stay out. Gabriel Dahari and numerous other drivers make their way onto pit road. And then right here's where the incident actually occurs. There's the view from the 01, the trouble in front. And it looks like he was trying to avoid running into the 4, hooks it hard right, and slams into the outside wall.
So that's what creates the yellow flag. On the right side, there are the drivers on pit road. Maggio will stay out. And for right now, the list becomes approximately, and make it less than 10 cars coming in, actually 10, with Ethan Fonseca Moreno being that last driver that was a part of that driver base to stay out here. Connor Trafari, who was up inside a race-high top 5, he will come out. And I think Moreno did actually come down pit road. So it is 9 cars, less than 10. Then Malachi Drake, the 90 car, will stay out. He's been involved in several incidents tonight. And so now we get to see that crossover point now between teammates, Francisco. We haven't seen that much tonight. Of course, Dahari, Moreno, Maggio, and company, they've been on a similar strategy so far, but now is where they're going to start to figure out where they're going to be by the time we get to halfway, which is about 24, 23 laps.
Some of these drivers have had 10 laps on their stint, and then a couple others have had more so, about 20 or so. Those include Maggio, White, and Maro. So not too much difference between some of these guys, but among others it could be a larger difference. And of course, the leader of this most recent strategy, Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who's quietly been one of the better cars here tonight. Not flashy as Dahari, Bomar, Duran, or even Maggio, but right now, with restarting in 10th on this outside lane, he could try to make some magic work and try to get his way into the top 5 with that tire advantage. And all it takes is one run, Kenneth. We've seen this happen before in any league, at any racetrack. All it takes is one green flag run at the right time, and the strategy could work for you. No, it doesn't matter if it's this one, if it's the one where you pit the next time, or the one after that. All it takes is one green flag run at the right time, and that strategy, the one you choose, could be gold. And this was definitely the case when we ran NIS. It was, I believe, myself, Steven Maggio, Jaden Porter, Gabriel Dahari, and I think Ethan Fonseca was in that NIS as well. It was 5 or 6 of us all together in the same split, and all it took was one run at some point after lap 200, and that's when we got a 150 lap run. But and I will say, in perfect fashion for my luck, it was the very first run after I got involved in an incident where it gave me 6 minutes of damage. So I mean, if there was any time in the race I wanted that to happen, it was not right then and there.
Yeah, that's a poorly timed situation. But you're right. I mean, we've seen the flurry of yellows early on, but at any moment, whether it be through attrition or not, this race could break wide open into a long green flag stretch. And that's the situation that everybody beneath the top 10 are hoping for right now. It worked out, though, in the short run with Maggio and company early on in this race. And then, of course, with Bomar, with Austin Duran, it worked out and then moving up through the field. So in both scenarios of the fresh tire car situation, they've been able to work their way up. It hasn't been as easy as we maybe anticipated it would had this race happened before the next gen tire update and aero model, but for right now, it still is. Fresh tires mean more grip, means a better race car, which is the very simple way to put it. Maggio will lead this race back to the green flag at lap 62. Gino Mero in the 46 car. He'll be on a race-high second-place effort right now with Garrett White for that Whiteout Motorsports Chevrolet camp. He's going to be on the inside of row 2. Traber Burns, who was a part of that sideways near spin with Duncan Fall entering turn 1, that ended up originating into the yellow flag out of turn 4. He's going to be on the outside of the second row. Shockey Tarpley came down pit road lately. It was a 6.2 second stop about 12 laps ago. And then Bomar just in the top 5. Moreno now inside the top 7. And the list will continue. It is a healthy mix of those on the old tires up front and on the new tires in the back of the pack. Maggio looking for his first win of the season, would make it 3 different winners so far in Season 4 of the SAAC Cup Series, which has a very long history, all the way back to Grand Theft Auto Racing. Years and years have passed between the console games and then ultimately to iRacing, where it stands here in 2025, and where Steven Maggio has become one of the young rising stars. He'll lead the field back to the restart zone. Slow getaway by Gino Mero. Garrett
crash! That's Tafari!
And Trafari's involved, one of those drivers who came down pit road. He spun around at the exit of the quad oval, and I don't think anyone else got a piece of it, but there is damage to the 9 car.
He was at the back of that train of cars that was struggling on the outside lane, and it looks like he got into the back of Ethan Fonseca Moreno as they were stacking up, and it just darted right into the outside wall. Big front end damage, possibly some suspension damage to some extent there on the 9 car, but he was lucky enough that it wasn't going too fast, so it might not be nearly as bad. We'll get a second look at it here. And you can see there, looks like Maro might not have been in the right gear, and it stacks up the entire outside lane, and Trafari gets into the back of the 92 and sends himself spinning to the outside wall. Doesn't look like the car is too damaged, but it doesn't look like it's 100% either. You see the right front crinkle, and from what I saw with how he got back up to speed, he might have a little bit of suspension damage, as there you see the tap, there's the contact to the wall, and that's where the damage could have came from suspension wise, is that slap into the outside wall with the right side.
So Dawn, or rather Trafari with the damage. There's the 17 car of George right in front. And I believe Trafari was able to mostly fix it, or he will come down pit road this time to fix it. Didn't see a lot of that on the left front of the car, but of course the damage enough to send Trafari to the back end of the field with that little mishap entering turn 1 off of the quad oval. And, you know, we talk about the domino effect, how things can really cataclysmically change the momentum on restarts. It takes just one driver to mishap going through the gears that stacks everyone up. It's kind of like congesting traffic on the I-95. It's just a lot of drivers getting in the mix of it. Some guys react a little too late, and with Trafari there, just got stacked up without any moment to react, and that's when the car stepped out from under it.
It's a good reference, I must say, but a better reference would be stacked up like the 826 past 3 o'clock, which is noticeably terrible for those of you who have driven through the Miami metro area. But we talked about the restarts, how that can be an issue. I think nobody knows better than that than Lawson Peel and Jaden Porter after their most recent championship efforts. After pitting and setting themselves further back into the field, all it took was one driver in front of them not being in the right gear and spinning into the wall and back across the racetrack, and it took them out of championship contention. So we could see stuff like this all night long. You have to be careful on these restarts.
And now you got to be even more careful with this new next-gen tire update. Any little mistake in first or second gear will send you out of the race in a moment's notice. For Trafari, it ends up being a near dagger for his chances at getting through to this race and coming away with the victory. Let's see if we can talk with the driver of the 9 car. Connor, you got a copy with us?
Yeah, I do.
All right, well, Connor, a tough situation there off the restart. I know you were on the back end of what was a slowing pack on the outside. Tell us your perspective there as you guys were taking the green flag.
Yeah, I was going and they weren't going. It's simply the truth. At least someone missed a shift up there. I got into the back of Moreno and just shot my car into the wall. Nothing I could really do.
Well, Connor, you had to work your way through this field very much early on in this race. You were beneath the top 25, of course, missing out through qualifying and then still making it through the race based on your points from last season. This is you and a ton of the other drivers' first real challenge with the next-gen car in league competition apart from just some practice sessions. So what have you taken away from how this car and how the tire drives over this race so far?
Yeah, just gotta be easy with it, honestly. I got really lucky on the start to get a lot of positions really early on. But yeah, at this point I just gotta take it easy. I gotta see how the wheel damage is. I have about like 6 minutes or so we'll see how that plays out. But hopefully it's not too race damaging.
Well, Connor, we appreciate the time. Tough break there on the restart, but hopefully you're able to get back into it.
Thank you.
So Connor Trafari joining us there as he will rejoin some of his teammates, and he will try to figure out what he can do to get back into the race as we move forward in tonight's Charlotte running.
And see that, Kenneth, it wasn't that fast of a hit that he had to the outside wall, and it was still 6 minutes, so he's very lucky that happened on the very restart while they were still going slow. Otherwise, it could have been a lot worse.
And so Trafari will be at the back of this field as Maggio, Bomar, Merrill, and White will lead us off of turn 4. We will have at least one more lap before the pace car comes down. So we'll have a little more time to digest what is going to happen here off of the restart. We did not notice any big moves from the fresh tire cars, at least. The freshest tire car right now is, at the moment, Ethan Fonseca Moreno. He's the highest running of those guys. Cody Riveras is right behind him, and Moreno is just going to restart in 9th, the exact same place where he was right as the caution came out, and he came in and out of pit road because of that very early spin from Trafari, as the outside will try to learn some lessons here. But it was interesting to hear from Trafari how easy you got to take this race car, because cold tires now matter a lot more. The tires can spin out a lot more than earlier. You know, before the update, the next-gen car, you know, we're talking about it a ton, but it does really play a big difference in it, because even the Coke drivers, the best of the best on iRacing, have to relearn this car, relearn the tire, and get used to it. Part of it will be taking it as easy as possible and just learning where you have to balance on the edge of control and the edge of, well, spinning out.
And you'll get a chance to see that for yourself next Tuesday. What track is the Coke Series next at?
They are at Iowa. I will not be a part of the broadcast for then, and then the next week's race at Dover Motor Speedway. It's going to be 2 very difficult short tracks. And with Iowa, the brand new surface update that was revealed on iRacing, still no official word on whether they're going to run the new version of Iowa or the old 2011 scan that is much rougher, and I guess with this car, maybe more difficult to drive in general, but the newly repaved corners are part of Iowa in 2025 and a part of the iRacing service from that recent Season 3 update. So Coke drivers will have some time to figure it out as the green flag waves, and there goes Bomar. The rear tires lit up. Gino Merrill peeks out the edge, 3 wide into turn 1.
And nearly 4 wide, a little bit further back into turn 1, Moreno on the inside.
And that was Malachi Drake in the middle of that white, blue, and yellow Chevrolet Camaro that had to back out and said, yeah, no way, I'm not doing this so early on in the restart. There's Tarpley, Moreno, Bauman among those fighting for position back into turn 3 as White takes away second and peaks on for the race leader.
Tarpley drives it back down to the inside, nearly gets to the inside of Merrill, and that all started on the restart when Bomar looks like he had something similar happen as Gino Merrill did on the previous attempt and loses 2, 3, 4 positions on the actual go, and it really stacked up the outside lane, got it real interesting, and now Moreno tries to wind it up on the outside, battling for 8th place. He's trying to use those good new tires for good.
He's on the fresh tires, and this will be the real demonstration of how powerful will they be. He's got the clean air on the high side of the racetrack. He'll look for the crossover here on Gino Merrill. Nearly peaked out for a half block. The 92 car makes his way to the inside. The Red Bull Chevrolet got its wings on, and now it's flying through the field into the top 7.
And you see he drifts up a little bit, but not a lot, to give the dirty air to the 46. Unable to do the crossover is Gino Merrill, so now he's got that position properly. And he can try to set off after Ollie Reeves, who's just behind a couple of cars behind this guy right here, James Bomar, who restarted in 2nd place. As now side by side behind Bomar is Ollie Reeves with Austin Doran, and now Reeves to the outside of Bomar.
The Ollie's Chevrolet takes a peek up high. Remember, that was the Reeves car involved in a caution earlier on in this race, but he got everything fixed. It's now back to full mint condition, and now is where he can charge. He pokes his nose up high. The Pepsi Toyota has to faint down low. A look to the inside of the racetrack near that blue and white paint where we've seen drivers gain grip but also lose a ton of track position. Bomar up high. Reeves gonna plant through to right behind, and so far still single file as they chase back to turn 1.
And you can see it's just tough to make those passes work. You just got to get a big enough run and make a power move and get side by side and just try and clear the guy. It kind of seems like it's how the real car is. You struggle to get side by side, and if you do, you got to make sure you do what you can to clear so you don't lose out, as Moreno has a tough spot going into turn 3. He might be under attack from Merrill again. As you see a couple cars strike the outside wall here for side by side, you got to go back to Andretti Robinson, who's working with the 46 of Gino Merrill against Sharky Tarpley for the 8th place position. As Nicholas Bauman has recovered pretty decently. He's actually a little bit just behind this group, trying to work his way back into the top 10. There's the 81 on your screen right now.
Yeah, that green Baja Blast Chevrolet on the inside of Bauman has been in some of the most precarious spots without being actually involved in a crash so far tonight. He's been loose, he's been tight, he's been on the outside, middle, bottom, 3 wide. He's been everywhere so far tonight from Charlotte, and so far he's still working his way through the mid-pack as Maggio commands the field. He's pulled away to the tune of nearly half a second in front of Garrett White, Traber C. Burns, those two outlining the top 3 as the battle between Reeves and Bomar continues around the top 5 area of the racetrack. And once again, they'll be 3 wide around where Gino Merrill is. He was nearly on the outside, and now he is. The valiant car of Tarpley is on the bottom. Bauman is down there. Andretti Robinson and Cody Rivera, they'll make contact at the exit of turn 4.
What a save.
And they save it. What a save by the 2 Mustangs on the inside.
That was not easy to hang on to those race cars and without it breaking loose and not coming back up on traffic. Good effort by both of them.
And that was near quarter panel contact between those 2 cars. And more often than not, it is a death sentence. And there's Trevor Haley, the bright yellow Menards car on the outside for KBueno Racing, the Indiana driver takes a look up high. Rivera gets a peek of the dirty air. Now there'll be 3 wide again. Prancing horses all across the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Back to turn 1.
It is insane just outside of the top 10 here. Some 3 wide action throughout this field. Rivera's through the middle, has to flush out as Jurgensmeyer moves back up into the top 15. As the action in the front has kind of cooled off for now, it is all popping off outside this top 10.
You know, we talk about how the car before the update handled more a bit like a super speedway. You'd see the top 5 to 7 all packed up and ready to go, like if they were drafting on each other, and it seems to be happening here from about 11th on back. That's where you're seeing the worst of the dirty air. You're seeing the most of the draft, And of course, the most of this racing. Now 3 wide again. Jurgensmeyer playing defense. The Hennessy Ford Mustang of Andretti Robinson is not going to give up, and a textbook pass to the inside of Gino Mero. They're starting to find their way through the mid portion of this race.
46 appears to be struggling either with tires or just getting a grip on the race car. He's been losing a couple positions over the last couple laps. Tags the outside wall again as he peeks to the outside of Jurgensmeyer, who puts the block through the quad oval. He's just been struggling here to try and put something together. There's Moreno jumping to the outside, trying to see if he can form a run here against Ali Reeves, and for the 5th place position. And it looks like Fall tries to peek to the inside this time. There's Moreno now to the inside of 31. He tries to get around Reeves at the same time as Reeves potentially tries to make a move on Bomar.
And that was Texas on Illinois. Between Dahari and Jurgensmeyer, the 2 teammates settle it out inside the top 13. And this is going to be the calmest that we see the field for right now, at least. It's a good sign as Ollie Reeves makes a move up high. Moreno is starting to find his way through. The fresh tires are making a statement here, although he's going to have to work against those 2 cars on the high side in turn 3.
He's running on the bottom, and he has the dirty air to deal with. So he's just going to have to try and hang on here as best he can. Reeves tags the outside wall. That could give Moreno an advantage of trying to claw his way back in that fight, as Bomar now has about 3 car lengths on them. Moreno drives it in deep. He's going to slide up in front of Ali Reeves, and he's going to clear for the position. You see Reeves, as he had to cross the wake, was unable to get a big enough run, so Moreno clears for the 5th place position. Now he gets to set off after Bomar.
And he's pulled away from the next car on fresh tires. It is actually the 81 of Nicholas Baumann, and then you got to go further down to Trevor Haley. You have to go even further to find Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, Cody Riveras. A bulk of those guys that are fighting inside the top 15, they have taken the freshest set of Goodyear Eagles, but it's not so fresh anymore. 20-plus laps on the set of Goodyear Eagles. It is now starting to find its way into the cliff zone, as we call it on the iRacing sim, where the tires really do not cooperate at all, and you have a harder time making some sort of advantage on the rest of this field. Maggio first, Garrett White P2, Traver Burns back in 3rd, Bomar in 4th, and Ethan Fonseca Moreno, your current running top 5 as we come through halfway here from Concord, North Carolina. Don't go anywhere. We've got more of the SAAC Cup Series and race number 3 of the 4th season right here on the KBueno Racing Network.
Separation throughout the run.
Welcome back to the Charlotte Motor Speedway as part of the SAAC Cup Series coverage here on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno and Francisco Bacallao with you. You are on board with the man on the freshest set of Goodyear Eagles after 85 laps and our longest green flag run of the night. Ethan Fonseca Moreno in search of his 2nd consecutive victory after taking the victory in the last 5 or so laps after a 3-wide move at the virtual Michigan International Speedway. So as we push forward, Maggio continuously the race leader. Ollie Reeves, Traver Burns, their fight for 5th has settled out as Burns is starting to hemorrhage back through the field. There's that yellow and red Ollie Chevrolet to the inside of the blue and yellow Toyota Camry of Burns. Near contact as they enter turn 1. And Francisco, I think it's a sigh of relief for most of the field. They finally get to relish in a long green flag stretch. What takeaways could you expect from what we've seen so far, either up front or through the mid-pack?
Looks like the racing in the pack has been just absolutely fantastic. We're seeing guys bounce off each other, race aggressively without causing a wreck in those last couple laps, and it has provided some great racing. And up at the front, we're seeing the separation really play a virtue. We have not seen this out of Charlotte in a long time, especially under the lights. We've seen basically a super speedway S race with the first 5 to 10 cars usually staying nose to tail, and it's all about making runs and trying to get to the inside of the leader constantly. But now you're seeing gaps of multiple car lengths of trying to just manage your tires, race the racetrack, and if whenever you can, race against somebody. Maggio right now has a 7/10 of a second lead and 1.5 back to James Beaumont, and it's Ethan Fonseca Moreno highest on the brand new tires, trying to see if he can close the gap. But those top two, Kenneth, they're laps away from having to make a pit stop. They're on the oldest set of tires. They're 52 laps on their stint currently. They're going to be expected on the pit road within the next 5 laps, and we might not see the rest of the field for a while.
The real question is, who strikes first out of the group? Is it the race leader? Is it second or third? How long will these guys be willing to stay out on the set of Goodyear Eagles that
and you know,
this new
Kenneth,
update has really changed a lot?
And I think for those that will stay out, I think the most important thing they'll be looking at is, can they get to about 50, 55 to go in the race? Because if they do, that could be their only green flag pit stop. For for White, Maggio, and Maro, they're going to have to pit at least another time, even apart from this pit stop, as somebody has called out on the pit road. It looks like it's potentially the 15 of Beaumont going in with the 40. So Beaumont, who could have gone plenty of more laps, brings it down pit road here with a couple other guys. So interesting to see him decide to do this strategy. Maggio stays out for yet another lap, so he's clearly been able to stretch the field a little bit more, up to 54 laps. Beaumont has to back it up a little bit. That's going to cost him some time. But to finish off my point, if you're Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who was one of those most recent drivers to pit, he's 31 laps on his stint. He can probably go at least another 20 or so laps on this stint, given the fact how Maggio has done. And that'll put him somewhere around lap 110, within striking distance of saving to the end.
As long as you can go those 57 laps, and as long as we stay green, it's a possibility for the Red Bull Chevrolet. It was Garrett White, James Beaumont, Gino Mero among those that came down pit road. That's Connor Trafari right up the road. Remember, Trafari was involved in a recent spill. As we were getting to a green flag restart, he's now 2 laps down
Maggio
in 30th. And again, these drivers are also a lap down or more. Here comes the former race leader, Steven Maggio, the solo driver in a lap 91.
And he completes his, I believe, 55th lap on the racetrack. So that's the benchmark now. There might have been some caution laps involved in there for a good bit, but 55 laps is what Maggio was able to stay out there on the racetrack. Moreno right now is working his 33rd lap as it stands right now. So if we can assume that Moreno can go another 20 laps, he would have to do 55 on that final stint, having done 52. It's awfully close, but it's certainly worth trying.
You gotta wonder, is it gonna be worth trying for him, or is he just gonna be more content with running a more comfortable strategy, even if it may lose him more time? But for right now, Moreno continues up front. Ollie Reeves in second, Trevor C. Burns in third. And this is where I'm going to bring up the points of the point system, because we've seen on the KBueno Racing Network guys of late a lot of playoff formats, eliminator style chases to the championship, 4 wide, drop in the Hamlet Cup Series. They both have a similarly styled playoff format, much like NASCAR has now with the playoff aligned system and drivers getting eliminated. But here in the SAAC Cup Series, it comes down to overall points. There is an eliminator chase at the end of the season that we'll describe when we get closer to that marker of the campaign. But you now factor in overall points. There are no advancements, no locking into the postseason through a race victory. So it all comes down to how you perform in the grand scheme of the year. Moreno is a winner already in 2025 at Michigan, but he cannot throw this race away, because it's going to probably matter when we get later on into the summer stretch. And the yellow flag waves right in front of the net race leader. It's the 12 machine, Christopher A. Robinson.
And that's why if you had all that fuel available, you stay out, you run the risk of that caution flag, and those that pitted now are going to be trapped a lap down. You look at the first car 1 lap down, because of how early he pitted, it's Garrett White, so Steven Maggio, not the free pass. He could try to take the wave around, but he is going to have to restart at the back of the field, much like Garrett White, and all these guys, track position, all lost. The biggest winner, Ethan Fonseca.
Gonna be a heartbreaking situation for Steven Maggio, who coming up to the halfway point has dominated this Charlotte race. And a lot of the other strong contenders will have to work from a lap down or more. That includes Austin Doran, of course, James Bomar, Gino Mero. And that's back to 29th place. As so far, all of the cars 24th and forward, they have not hit pit road yet. As Garrett White is going to be the proverbial lucky dog position car in 25th place. And that is going to be hard. That's hard to swallow for Maggio for sure.
And he had to pit. He didn't have any other choice. It's not like he could know that it was going to be that soon, that quickly, but he had to pit. He had no more fuel remaining. For Bomar, that's definitely going to be a tough one to swallow for James Bomar. He could have gone at least another 10 or 15 laps on fuel, and he decided to pit with that group, so he's going to be rethinking his strategy after that. But now most of these leaders will make their way into the pit lane. Could expect to see 4 tires and fuel all the way across the boards, and we'll see who has the most efficient stop to exit with the lead. We saw it was Moreno ahead of Reeves. Reeves has a great stop, and they're going to be side by side working their way off pit road.
Well, who gets out first? Camera on the line by about a foot and a half. Ollie Reeves takes over the race lead off the pit lane with a 14 flat. Great stop.
Great pit stop. Yeah, Moreno 14 and a half and a little bit of tire spin. That's not going to help you win that race off the pit road. Reeves with the fastest pit stop of your top 5 drivers. So that's going to give him the race lead for this restart. Gabriel Dahari works up into 3rd. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer's recovered well. He's going to end up back inside the top 10. And looking throughout our field, it looks like it's going to be Steven Maggio getting a wave around here. He's the first car just behind the pace car, and he's going to restart at the very back. So we'll see how the 51 recovers in this race and if he's able to claw his way back into the top 5, top 10.
And there those cars are, trapped a lap down, and they will wave around this iRacing official pace car once the lights flicker off. So we'll have Ollie Reeves, the rest of the lead lap pack, come up to the pace car, and they'll line it up as normal for the green flag restart. A long green flag stretch that nearly got us to a strategy conversation to the end of the race. We hadn't had that. I was wishing for it to happen a little sooner, Francisco, given what we've seen with this car so far, but we have now a bit more time to talk about what the strategy can be, especially if late race yellows come into the fold. We had our good friend and fellow driver in the SAAC Cup Series, Juan Escamilla, join us from the YouTube chat, so a very nice welcoming to Juan Escamilla, who finished the race last week at Michigan and ended up inside the top 10. Rallied to 7th after rolling off from P20 and ended up 22nd in the opening race of the season at Daytona. Could not make Charlotte tonight, so hopefully we get to see Escamilla in the following races through the summer season as the SAAC Cup Series just gets underway. Man, Francisco, I don't know if I really envy or not being a driver at this point, because it's been tough to drive. It's definitely been very difficult to drive in the mid-pack. I think I'm just good sitting where I'm at. I'm not going to lie.
Oh man, the best track position is going to be where the 31 is right now. Hopefully the Amber Alert didn't come through the microphone there.
It did. It did.
Yeah. There's a county-wide issue there. I'm not going to repeat it over the mic here, but can't wait to go back under green. We'll see if we're able to get another good-sized run, but it's been a while since the last restart, so we'll see how these drivers handle the restart. If anybody makes a mistake on the cold tires, add a different gear. Ollie Reeves, who has not led on the restart all night long, is going to be the first to the restart zone as Jurg blinks out a little bit. And there you see all good up in the front. Dahari actually gets a decent launch. He'll clear for 2nd ahead of Moreno. And we'll see if he's able to put on the mount to Ollie Reeves here as everybody gets through turn 1.
And Moreno dealt with the dirty air, and Andretti Robinson will slide up the banking into the outside wall. Shockey Tarpley was the man right behind, and they're able to rally the cars together and keep it from trouble. I think there's suspension damage on Tarpley. Yeah,
that car is pretty damaged with the way he hit the outside walls. He nearly gets Victor ran into himself there. Maggio in the process is able to get through all of that. He was well behind all of it, but that really spread out the field early enough in this run.
And you saw Moreno peek to the inside as soon as they were coming to turns 1 and 2. Had to whoa up, and now another car slows
The 4.
at the exit of turn 2. Donovan David, the McDonald Chevrolet, finds himself outside 3 wide.
And another driver slow on the back straightaway was Nicholas Borowski as he gets into the 12 of Christopher Robinson, who brought out the most recent caution. They make some contact, and he goes sliding up the racetrack. And how about in front of those cars is the 16 of Keelan Belsha battling for 11th.
What a great run it's been for Belsha. Even though he's faced some adversity tonight, ended up in several crashes. One of those, obviously not of his own doing, got tagged late as he was on the apron, and in the fight with Zachary Bonsack for 11th.
He goes to the inside. He's going to try to get to the bottom side, but this goes to show just how difficult it is to make that bottom work for pass advancements. He's gonna have to regroup and try it again here, as in the front it looks like Tabor Burns is going to try and load up the outside pass here on Gabriel Dahari. He gets to the outside of 72, and he's gonna have a run down the back straightaway to clear Dahari for the 3rd place spot.
Tabor Burns, who fell off late in the going and right before that yellow flag came out, has found his footing, and he's nearly catching Moreno there in the middle of 3 and 4. Dirty Air plays such a huge role with these cars now that it's going to be more so about finding your line that's comfortable, yes, but also experimenting with the different lanes that can get you just that bit of an advantage, some more turn through the corner. Burns will back it off in the middle of 1 and 2. He'll stay behind Moreno. And right now, no side-by-side battles until you get back to Brad Sawinski, who was part of a caution after staying out the longest of any other driver. Had the oldest set of Goodyear Eagles, and the Smoky Mountain Chevrolet is back in the mix with a name we haven't called all night long, Connor Zola in the Skittles car.
Early on in this race, Connor Zola was 2 laps down, and right now he's inside the top 10, so good effort not quitting by the 13 to be inside this top 10. There's Jason Reichcock, who went through the artificial grass on the inside turf a couple laps ago as well, and he finds himself up inside the top 10. So a couple of names that we haven't really seen all night inside this top 10 have really found their way up there after this caution flag that really shook up the field. You have to go all the way back to 19 to find Steven Maggio and his recovery efforts. He sits behind Donovan David in the 18th spot in the number 4 car, who had that issue a couple laps ago. Maggio playing the patient game, trying to bide his time before he makes any kind of moves to advance his track position aggressively.
And the good news for Maggio, of course, is that he got his lap back. So when the yellow came out, we almost thought he would have been trapped a lap behind the leaders and would have had to hope for another yellow flag in order to get back on a level playing field. But thankfully, him, Bomar, and the rest of the lap down guys were able to shuffle their way around the pace car, get themselves at the back end of the lead lap. And with the scuffles that happened in the back of the group, that's what enabled Maggio to cut through the middle 3 wide, shot out of a cannon, and the 51 car, who led a majority of the mid portion of this race, is now trying to dig himself out of the hole that he did not create. The onboard look on the right side of the screen as Moreno fights with Burns for second.
And look at that move to the inside of Fall to go to the very bottom here after clearing Donovan David, and he's going to try to see if he can get past Garrett White. Remember, White was on the same strategy as him, got the actual free pass, and now he's side by side with the 40.
And White had the free pass here right in that moment. He'll be on the outside, and he won't give it up very easily, though. The fight will continue all the way outside of turn 2 as they are somewhat congesting here beneath the top 5. Dahari running 4th, and Jurgensmeyer, his teammate, in 5th, and then another teammate, that 19 car of Trevor Haley, running in P6. But how about Malachi Drake, a driver that I've had several iRacing memories with as part of the Ice Car series way back when, from the early 2020s. I remember him and I were engaged in a fuel strategy battle with the next gens at Pocono, and you know, I get to brag a little bit. I was the race winner then against Drake in a field of, what, 7 cars. It wasn't really a great victory in terms of pure competition for the amount of drivers that were in there, but Malachi Drake, always great to see him on the iRacing service, and awesome that he's part of the series that we're broadcasting. A full circle moment as Drake runs inside the top 6. Good run out of turn 4 with Trevor Haley to the inside, while the teammates of Jurgensmeyer, or rather Moreno and Dahari, with Jurgensmeyer behind, try to fight for 3rd.
And I could be wrong here, Kenneth, but I think he was also involved in a infamous crash of yourself at Chicagoland that resulted in your truck going, I would say, about 100 or so feet off the racetrack.
Was it? I don't remember if it was Malachi involved in that. I'm going to have to take a look back at that when the broadcast is over. But yeah, that's one of the more outrageous crashes I've ever had on iRacing. I think to this day, that's still the craziest crash I've ever been involved in, where the truck literally just ramped off of another truck and flew into the fence.
It looked like a rocket.
Yeah, it was great. You know what it reminds me of? That Joe Sanchez Kansas crash from all those seasons back. You remember
Absolutely.
that? Turn 1?
Yeah, I remember the jinx, yes.
And then somehow he rallied back to finish, what was it, the top 3,
Second.
top 5?
Yeah, second. He was battling Kyle Benson for the win after that.
Yeah, it was funny to see that. And we've seen plenty of outrageous crashes. There's Trevor Haley in the battle with Jason Ratchcock for what is 7th on the racetrack now.
And there's 3 wide right there.
And all the way to the back, where Manjo is trying to scrap himself out, and he's done a great job of it so far, up to 14th.
Oh, he gets into the 42 and the 42 into the wall.
And the spinner, Wyatt Roberts, the Daytona winner, is involved. The yellow flag flies again. And
and Merrill gets a piece of it.
And Bomar spins as well, hard into the outside wall.
Oh, man, the wreck that doesn't end. It's all the way down into turn 3 after starting in turn 2. And you saw it there as nearly gets into Amir Bascom as he spins it one more time. Looks like Wyatt Roberts. It didn't look like there was actual contact between the 51 and the 42. We'll get the replay loaded up and look at it from above if possible. I don't think there was official touching between the 42 and the 51, but it got the 42 sideways, and the 40 had nowhere to go. So here's a proper look at it. Doesn't look like contact there, Kenneth. Looks like a mix of arrow and net code. 42 has nowhere to go. Into the 40 he goes. Bomar spins later on, and there's the Wyatt Roberts tagging to the inside wall. No big damage on him. And we'll try and get to see the incident with Bomar. Possibly lost it on the bumps, trying to avoid the wreck. So here's Bomar's perspective. Sees the wreck happening, goes to the apron, misses it, and yeah, those bumps catch him out and spins it. Gets into the end of the wall, gets the contact there, and nearly gets into the Justin route.
Yeah, tough for Bomar there. Of course, him, Maggio, Garrett White, all of them got the wave around, and in the attempt to save their race after how strong of an early run they poised through the first 55, 60-ish laps in our longest green flag stretch of the night, as Ollie Reeves will pit from the race lead. It leaves Traber Burns as the solo driver to stay out alongside maybe a couple of others. Steven Maggio will work up to a top 5 as he's off of pit road.
And some two-tire calls here. Some two-tire calls. It's Moreno and Maggio that take 2. Nicholas Borowski takes no tires, fuel only for the 23 to get up to 3rd. Moreno had overshot his stall and backed up. That's probably why he probably went for an audible call there to go to the 2 tires so he wouldn't lose that much track position. But with how tight the setups are, it's not shocking to see 2 tires get attempted. We haven't seen how it works with the new setups and the new updates trying to go for those 2 tires, but if there's anybody that was going to do it, it was always going to be 92 and 51.
Yeah, well, we were going to anticipate them to take 2 tires if there was a late enough caution. And here with 54 laps to go, and there's still
could be close.
There's still a long run to go. I mean, but you can outlast the field on 2 fresh Goodyear Eagles. But is it really more of a gamble, Francisco, now that they really haven't tried it? Is it much more of a monstrous concoction that you can put out here on the racetrack if you put 2 and you really don't know what this car is going to do, other than before the update you can confidently take 2 and know exactly what this car is going to feel like? And now you have to get to the drawing board and figure out what is it going to be exactly like in the middle of the traffic, especially with an older tire car of Burns, who's going to lead this field and more often than not may get the jump as they come back to the first corner.
Yeah, they're going to have that going over the back of their minds, but it probably won't be that much different. At the end of the day, they're looking for a little bit more rotation. The 2 tires will give them that, given the tightness. But I think the biggest thing overall is they're in a possibility of trying to make it to the end. They're going to have 54 laps to go when we take the green flag here. That is right on the edge of the field numbers if we go green. The only one that we know for sure cannot make it is race leader Traber Burns. He last pitted 16 laps ago with the rest of the field. So if this race goes green, it could be fuel mileage, but who knows? With the way the race has been going, we definitely will see that yellow flag and pace car out one more time.
What a drive this is poised up to be for Traber Burns if he can hold on to it. It is his first start of Season 4 in the SAAC Cup Series for the O2 car. And did not show up for Daytona or Michigan, so just getting his first taste of the competition this season here at Charlotte. And we'll be at another 1.5 miles in a couple weeks' time at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. A bit of a West Coast swing where we go road course racing at Sonoma. We'll go to Las Vegas, and the list will continue. But for right now, Burns in the spotlight as he'll take the field out of turn 4. Moreno, Borowski, and Maggio, the 3 cars out in front of the drivers who came down pit lane recently. Shifting through the gears. Burns is up and away. No rear tire spin, but it's a slow getaway for everyone. Second on back on the inside.
I'm surprised that Borowski struggled as much as he did on that restart, getting up through the gears, being behind the race leader. It allowed Moreno to clear easily for second. Maggio from 4th clears for 3rd. And now Jurgensmeyer, after being involved in that incident, is trying to race for a position inside the top 5 for 4th. And he's going to get it as the 90 of Malachi Drake nearly gets into the left rear of Ollie Reeves as they work their way off of turn 4. Reeves now to the outside of Borowski as they're now faint 3 wide. Looks like Malachi through the middle as the 13 of Connor Zola tries to stick it through the outside.
Ollie Reeves now has to dig deep. The former race leader is going to try and scrap through the top 5, and he's clear of the best battle so far between Borowski and Drake, while Steven Maggio peaks the high side. On Jurgensmeyer, he wants more to the inside of his teammate Moreno for the runner-up spot in turn 4.
Moreno lines it up to the boards, trying to angle off this exit and get that big run. And he'll do so. He'll get the run here. You see Tabor Burns drift up high to try and give Moreno that kind of draft, if you will. And Moreno's going to take it. He continues to run that outer lane here. As there you see the onboard with Maggio, who gets right behind the O2, gets him loose. They're going to end up making contact as there's Moreno powering by.
A rocket ship on the high side as the 2 cars of Burns and Maggio slowed up, and that was the perfect example of aero packing, Francisco. Maggio got up to the back end of Burns' Toyota Camry and got him loose. He wobbled in turn 2. They both checked up, and all of a sudden Moreno said, well, thank you very much. New race leader from Charlotte.
Yeah, and that's what new with the new updates. And trust me, on Tuesday it was a lot worse. Here's a replay of it for those of you that missed it. There's the O2. He's coming down the racetrack, and as soon as he gets in front, you see how loose he gets. And Maggio, having done this several times between the last couple days, notices that and gives him the space to try to recover that race car, because it is real bad if you're not careful.
And there he goes to the outside. He finally made that pass complete on Burns, who will trail back to 5th place. Ollie Reeves, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, they were able to move on through. Malachi Drake is working on the O2 car now, and here's the fight for the top spot. How many times, Francisco, have we seen these 2 go at it here at Charlotte? I can count on my fingers 3 separate times in which they've done this exact thing.
It's kind of like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon at Martinsville, isn't it?
It is. It is a classic battle between 2 teammates. And remember back in that 4-wide race that we talked about at Charlotte in the middle of the playoffs, Moreno was so hungry for a victory, he didn't bother talking to his KBueno Racing teammates. He stayed deafened. He was in the voice chat, but he never gave a clue as to when he would go on the restarts and what his strategy officially was. He raced aggressively, he stayed on his defensive stance, and it all worked out. Moreno has won the last 2 Charlotte races aired on the KBueno Racing Network between 4 wide and dropping the hammer. He can try to get a 3rd straight with 47 laps to go.
They're not in the voice chat together right now, but at least Moreno's talking to other people this time. He's in the KBueno Racing chat with a couple other drivers, with Keelan Belsha, Nicholas Bauman, and Trevor Haley. But he's going to try to do his best to race against Steve and Maggio. I mean, these 2 are their toughest competition towards each other in some of these league races, it seems, as recently. So when that driver that you're racing against week in and week out is your teammate, as you see Maggio get a wash of that dirty air and has to check up a little bit. You see the gap open up for the 90, for the 92. When you have to race your teammate like that week in and week out for these race wins, it's a tough spot, because you're racing with that guy. You try to help each other, but you also want to win the race, and to win the race, you're going to have to go through him.
You know, I don't want to spark some infighting here for KBueno Racing as a team, but, I mean, do you take it personally a little bit if you're Maggio, or are you kind of a little bummed out that your teammate's not really working with you, especially in this portion of the race where I think they're the closest they've been in a little while between Maggio's strategy and Moreno in his own staying out as long as he did?
Well, he has expressed his frustrations in moments where he was hoping to try and work with his teammates, and it maybe didn't work out to factor, but it kind of goes with those expectations. You can work really well together one race, and then the next, everybody tries to be selfish. It's just one of those things that comes with it. I certainly have my good and very bad experiences with that in the history of KBueno Racing, and honestly, when it works real good, it's real nice. But I don't think that these drivers, with the relationship they have with one another off the racetrack as much as they do on it, I don't think it'll ever get to any territory as such. I think they're all racing each other very, very hard, very aggressively, but nothing appears to be ever going over the line with one another.
Is it that Michael Jordan meme was just, I just took that person, you know? Like, and not in a serious way, but...
Well, I mean, we certainly know Ethan and Jaden do.
Yeah, we've seen them beef, and I'm surprised Jaden's not here tonight. He did sign up for the series prior to the Charlotte race, but the 97 car isn't in action. We've seen them beef a little bit, but a lot of that banter working well between those two is we're watching 3 wide here. Traber Burns, the former race leader, he has fallen off here on the old set of tires. He's down to 14th, and on the outside of 3 abreast, Tarpley in the middle, Andretti Robinson down low, Garrett White, Nicholas Bauman, Duncan Fall. It is a huge list, a hurricane of cars off turn 4.
And you got to be careful here off of 4 where the car gets tight like that and wants to jump out towards the wall. But they're able to hang on as they're through the middle. Piercing is the 25 of Sharky Tarpley through the middle of Andretti Robinson and to the inside of Duncan Fall. He tries to stick it through the corner but unable to hang on through the 3 wide. He does stay to the inside. He once again tries to squeeze the middle. Andretti Robinson has to close the gap up. And you can see Sharky Tarpley does not want to follow anybody. He is looking for the clean air by any means possible.
Robinson, the 21-year-old out of Universal City, Texas, is putting on a show right now. And despite some of the incidents he's been involved in, a loose moment that put him back in the pack. The 45 car is here to play for the top 15 with the North Carolinian of Duncan Fall sitting right behind. Tarpley backs out, bit of front-end nose damage for the 25 Chevrolet. And once again, single file as they trail back to turns 3 and 4. It has calmed down a little bit, but Francisco, I'd say things are starting to really ramp up inside the top 8. Remember, earlier on in this race, they were able to really separate and get away from each other, find a bit of elbow room, while the mid-pack was congested. Now it's the other way around. This mid-pack, top 5, all within 0.6 of a second inside 40 laps to go.
Looks a little bit like the older Charlotte, if you will, at this stage in the race, but not nearly as many big runs and lunges as we saw before. So right now they're just able to stick a little bit closer together right now, as there you see the recovery effort of Gabriel Dahari, who just went around the 71 on this most recent lap and now sets his eyes on Trevor Haley. Dahari was one of those guys that dominated the early portion of the race alongside Steven Maggio and got trapped, I believe, a lap down earlier on and has been just trying to recover as much as he can. There you see him now peeking to the inside of Trevor Haley for the 6th place position, and just in front of him is that 90 of Malachi Drake for top 5 position. So Dahari slowly catching up, and this is probably what Steven Maggio wants to see, is that 72. He knows that's a buddy that could help him out here in this battle.
As they all trail single file, Maggio has Ollie Reeves on his tail. And Ollie, who led a bulk of this race right before the green flag strategy came out, will poke his nose to the outside. He may just be there at the exit of turn 2, and he is. Ignited, fight for P2 up in turn 3, and Maggio will hang back for now. Ollie Reeves to 2nd place.
And he might not be done. He looks like he wants to try to go for the top spot as well, as he tries to peek to the outside of Moreno. It doesn't get quite a big enough of a run to get there, but what a move around Steven Maggio to get up to 2nd. And now we'll see what he tries to do arrow-wise against your race leader.
So does the 92 play arrow blocker, or does Reeves push forward?
Oh, Moreno got loose.
Off of turn 2, the 92 car is out of line. Here comes Ollie Reeves, planting to the inside. The Ollie Chevrolet finds a way through. Moreno looks for the crossover in turn 4.
Oh, there's the arrow
and
packing.
Reeves is sideways.
Wow, what a move by Moreno to get him arrow loose, much like Maggio did earlier, and Reeves back down to 3rd just like that.
What a fight we're watching at the front of this field. And back in the picture, Jonathan Juergensmeyer and Gabriel Dahari, the rest of this top 5. They've pulled away from the bright yellow Menard Chevrolet of Trevor Haley. And now does the frustration settle in for the Ollie Reeves car.
And here comes Maggio. He's going to get right up to the back of the 92 to try to get him loose, but Moreno expected it probably because he does not flinch at all.
You got to make sure you're planted with this next-gen car. You see a car go right to the inside, right in your rearview mirror, and you got to be ready to save it. For right now, Maggio, no proper response to the race leader. Reeves is going to try again from the outside, but this time he's blocked.
That was a good enough move to try around the outside. He's clearly shown some pace by going up there and has been able to make the pass, and he's trying to offset for the dirty air. All it takes is one good run and he can get up there. Now Jurgensmeyer could attack him for the 3rd place spot as Maggio got a solid run off the corner. He's now within a car length of your leader.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all within 0.6 of a second. It's Moreno,
all broke
Maggio,
away.
Reeves, Jurgensmeyer, and Dahari. And then the mid-pack battle about 5 cars deep between Haley, Ragecock, Drake, Robinson, and Brad Sawinski inside the top 10. So it's all single-filed out with maybe our longest run of the race, apart from the midway portion on tap here with 33 laps to go.
And Traber Burns has made his way down pit road, so the 23 who was unable to make it to the end of the race on fuel, confirmed, is down pit road, and he's not the only one. Garrett White also down the pit lane.
It looked like they may have been short or there may be damage, but for right now, who's to say? As they're both come down pit road. And there is at least 22 laps to go. These drivers at the front are on their 22nd, coming to the 23rd lap. So they'll go maybe about 20 or 55 laps total. 22, 23-ish more laps if they can get to the checkered flag. And that is pushing it specifically on the tires, but could very well be the same on fuel as Dahari and Jurgensmeyer go after it for 4th place.
It's going to be really close, and I don't think they've really been saving fuel like that. I'm not sure if they're content with trying to save in the last portion of this run, but right now when they come across the line, it'll be 31 laps to go. It'll be their 25th lap of the run. You do the math there, as sideways goes the 78 trying to cross over to the inside. He's going to lose some momentum. You run the math there, Kenneth. That is close to 55 laps. We saw Maggio go 55 laps earlier, but that was with caution laps. These guys have not had any caution laps to deal with, so you're probably looking at most of the field being two or so laps short, and no saving attempts have been made so far in this race. As you see them still downshifting to 4th, as a matter of fact, with Austin Doran's on board. These guys could definitely likely be short on fuel, and they're banking on a caution to save them.
So would you rather be in a position where you pray for a yellow, or given how separated this field is in the stretch of the green flag run, are you willing to risk it like Garrett White is? As a driver in this mentality, Francisco, I'm going to put you on the spot. What would you do here?
Honestly, a lot of it is depending on how your race has gone and where you're sitting track position-wise. I honestly would probably go with whatever strategy puts me on offense, and looks like it is Gabriel Dahari, the first of your top 5 to bring it down pit road. So this really is going to set off everything.
He was in the fight with Jonathan Jurgensmeyer inside the top 5, car sliding in the background there, just trying to get on pit road. Thankfully was able to save it. It was Borowski who had stayed out a little while ago on the green flag restart. He is 22nd as they come across the start-finish line. Dahari strikes first, and out of those in the rest of this top 5, no clear move to pit road yet, as the top 2 separated by more than half a second. Maggio and Moreno didn't even look down at pit road that time by. Neither did Ollie Reeves, neither did Jurgensmeyer, neither did the 5th place car of Trevor Haley, and the list goes on. So we're seeing more guys be a little more comfortable staying out as a moment. And here's Connor Zola, Duncan Fall, great battle inside the top 11 as they're getting by the Trafari lapped car.
And I've got to say, Kenneth, Dahari is one of those drivers that can save fuel really effectively. We saw it at Homestead Miami Speedway in that final race of the season in 4 wide to finish 2nd place in that one. If Dahari's bringing it down pit road this early, something tells me that these guys are likely on the short side.
But now you think, are they going to save at all? But look on board with Ollie Reeves.
None of them are saving right now. They're still downshifting, so they're clearly not saving.
And Reeves' on board tells you the story alongside the rest of this main group. They are going either to come down pit road running 100%, or they will try and save, but no indications of making their step back. And Reeves, who formerly had an attack on Maggio, has now really dwindled in pace. He was about a 10th faster than Maggio the last time by, but he's got over 6 car lengths to make up in order to get back to where he was.
And the way this race has gone also plays effect into your strategy, because you've seen how many caution flags have come out. We saw one break up green flag pit stops. That's in the back of your mind. You don't want to make the pit stop, get trapped a lap down like Steven Maggio earlier, and then have to make up the track position with just a handful of laps to go. You want to not have to lose the track position, so you don't want to bring it down pit road, but you're probably not going to get to the end of the race. So what most likely everybody's expecting is that at some point that yellow flag could wave and save everybody the hassle of saving fuel and losing track position, or making that green flag pit stop and lose track position. Anyway, they're all banking on it.
Well, just for reference, Dahari, who came down pit road the earliest out of this main group, he's a lap down in 23rd, but he does not have the wave around position. It is in the hands of James Bomar right now, car number 15 in 22nd place. And this car and this Bomar driver is on 30 laps of a stint, so it's a 26 lap difference between Bomar and Dahari. And now it's up to that yellow and black Chevrolet to make up all that time and pray that a yellow flag does not come out. Or maybe he can be in that same place that Maggio was earlier on in this race, where he could be in a position just to get the wave around alongside the other guys, and he'll be fresh and okay. But the gap is starting to grow, Francisco, and I'd say for Maggio and Reeves, maybe a bit more consideration about pit road now that the gap sits at a little over a second.
Austin Duran has made his way into the pit lane now, so another driver has brought it into the lane. He nearly overshoots it, but he's in a stall just fine as the 52 with the right sides now going up. And again, as the run goes on, if more guys trickle down the pit lane, this could set off with different ideas. There's now Maggio. Reeves had to take a little bit of avoiding action, but Steven Maggio now is the next car to bring it down pit road, one of your contenders for this race win. We'll see what Moreno does after seeing this.
So he cannot make it to the end, and he is not confident in it. Duncan Fall, the teammate, comes in as well for the Chevrolet, and now it's up to the race leader to figure out what he's going to do as they come around to 3 and 4 next time by. Moreno the leader by 2.1 seconds. Trevor Haley is coming in. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer up the road is going to be way too high. And here comes Haley and the race leader.
So Moreno bites the bullet. He's going to bring it down pit lane, and we'll see how he cycles out to Maggio when it's all said and done. That leaves Ollie Reeves in the race lead with Jason Raichcock in third, Jonathan Jurgensmeyer in third, Dahari trying to unlap himself all in the process. So we'll show you this blend between Moreno and Steven Maggio. Maggio is already exiting the pit lane. He is getting up to speed going into turn 3, and Moreno's in his pit stall right now getting service, as there's Ollie Reeves getting down pit lane, shaking the car, trying to get it slowed down. So if we can see Moreno exiting the pits now on the left side, we'll see that blend and how it shows the 51. So there's Moreno working his way through 1 and 2. There's Maggio already up to speed behind the 28, and it's going to be tight here as they're coming off of turn 2. There you see the 51, but it's going to be Moreno. Even with that 1 lap of difference in the 51's favor, he'll keep the track position ahead of the 51.
It's 19th and 20th on tap right now. Bomar up the road, Dahari in 17th. As he's off turn 4 in the quad oval, so Moreno and Maggio on the fresh tires can get around, but look at how much traffic they have to cut through right now with 19 laps to go. It's not going to help Moreno. It's going to give Maggio the edge. He washes up high. Moreno squeezes through the lap traffic. Unbelievable move to get through the distance, and Maggio stays trapped behind Rajcock.
He'll have the advantage now. He gets to the outside, and now he's going to have those cars in front of him, as Bomar's one of those that is up there as well. But easily with these tires, they could just jump to whatever line they want, and they can get there. As long as they don't get held up on corner exit, it could be all good to go for them. There's the 72 of Gabriel Dahari, who right now in the running order is actually ahead of these guys by a good margin. There you see Moreno a little bit further back. There's Dahari right now, who pitted a handful of laps ago. Was the first one to bring it down pit road, used the fresh tires to get this gap, but now everybody else is on better tires, and Moreno, we've seen what Moreno looks like when he is locked in to try and win a race here, and with 17 laps to go rather, he is definitely going to be charging to try and get past Gabriel Dahari, as Jonathan Jurgensmeyer continues to lead this race officially, still hanging on for a fuel possibility with Andretti Robinson, Jason Raichcock, Christopher Robinson, and Brad Sawinski, your top 5.
The difference in tires, 8 laps in favor of
and
Moreno. 3 wide as they get around the race leader in turn 3. Jurgensmeyer backed out. Will this be his calling card out of turn 4? It's not. Moreno is in the net race position for the lead. He's unlapped himself. Maggio too far back right now with 16 laps to go.
And what a move to get around the race leader like that. Right now they're battling each other for 12th on the racetrack, but it is still very highly contested, as there you see another car make their way onto pit road as Maggio gets by Jurgensmeyer now to unlap himself. Wow, incredible stuff, as I think the next car that making their way on the pit lane could be that second place runner. Not sure if he was peeling off into pit road, doesn't appear so. But your top 5 or so continue to circle on the racetrack, and this is what they're banking on. They're hoping a caution flag comes out, they've not been nearly as fast as Ethan Fonseca, as Steven Maggio, Gabriel Tahari, as some of these other cars. But if they can get a caution flag in the next 5 or 10 laps, this is exactly what they'll need to try and contend for this win.
Jurgensmeyer the last time set a 30.5. Moreno crosses the line now to set a 29.983. So it's more than half a second of a gap that Moreno so far is chewing into, but it's a long way to go. 14 laps left, and the top 10 have not come down pit road, so they anticipate that either they can make it via their strategies or they're going to run this dry and hope that a yellow will bail them out of jail. Moreno so far the net race leader in 10th. Steven Maggio back in 12th on fresh tires. So is Gabriel Zahari back in 13th. And then Ollie Reeves, former race leader in this event, back in 14th place as he moves by the Daytona winner of Wyatt Roberts. As Moreno tries to search for his second consecutive SAAC Cup Series victory and first at a mile and a half.
Nowinski makes his way into the pit lane, so that's another car that has already fallen to the having to come down pit road strategy, the number 28. So that leaves now your top 8 as drivers who have not made a pit stop in this race. And if you're Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, you have 3.5 seconds back to Jason Reichcock, and you also have about 28 or so seconds back to Ethan Fonseca. So you have that kind of a gap to play with to save fuel. You're probably, at this point in the run, maybe a lap or two short. You can try and save as much as you can. You certainly have the gap to try to do it. You don't want to run dry on the white flag, having a huge gap if you can't coast to the line.
Well, it's all going to be on how this all transpires and how long Jurgensmeyer is going to be willing to stay out on the speedway, because he's been out a long time. Jason Rajcock is there 43 laps in the books. Christopher A. Robinson, the 12 car, he was involved in an incident earlier on tonight, and he's been able to slightly work his way through the field, and now in a position where if he saves enough fuel, it'll be a top 3 effort. Nicholas Baumann has been in the lead pack for basically the entire race, but he's been back and forth. This could be the shining moment for the Baja Blast Chevrolet. Donovan David, he's been on a very roller coaster evening tonight. He's been involved in several accidents. That beautiful looking flame McDonald Chevrolet will hit pit road this time from 5th place, so he's not confident he can make it until the end. A driver known for saving fuel, Malachi Drake, is still out on the racetrack in P6, and then that is where you catch up to Ethan Fonseca Moreno, who has unlapped himself, and he's still about 6/10 ahead of his teammate and rival in this Charlotte race, Steven Maggio.
And it's nearly a second that separates those two on the racetrack. Tahari dropping back from that duo with the slightly older tires as Jurgensmeyer continues to stay out here, as we're now inside of 10 laps to go in this race, as he leads with 9 remaining. And he now has nearly 4 seconds on the racetrack, about 24 back to Moreno. So he's got a big gap to work with. For him, he has to be saving fuel if he's even thinking about getting there. He's still downshifting, so he is not necessarily saving fuel. At least he's not making it that obvious. Coming to 8 laps to go now. There's Ollie Reeves, who's going to unlap himself now. He has such a big gap. This is a big opportunity for him to try and save fuel.
And regardless of the circumstance, it will be Jurgensmeyer's best finish of his series, or of his career in the SAAC Cup Series. He has 1 career SAAC Cup Series win leading up to tonight. And in the first 2 races of Season 4, he's captured top 10s. 9th and 7th in the first 2, after working from 33rd at Daytona to finish in the top 10. And then another solid run last week in the 2-miler at Michigan. And now he is just 8 laps away from his second career SAAC Cup Series victory, with 4 seconds separating himself and Christopher A. Robinson. Still, the top 5 have not come down pit road. It's going to be close.
It's going to be tight. I mean, like I said, Maggio ran 55 earlier in the race, and now he stopped shifting. Actually, he's going to pit this time.
Well, here comes Jurgensmeyer on the brakes. Does Christopher Robinson follow? Jurgensmeyer will pull
Robinson
the trigger
stays out
with 7 laps to go. Robinson, the race leader.
And we're going to see it be this close down to the final lap. Someone's going to try to stretch it all the way. They have multiple seconds on Moreno from here to the checkered flag with 6 laps remaining. So if somebody tries to play it for the win, they're certainly within the realm of possibility. The question is, can they get to underpower, as now Baumann pits on the same lap, so that's 1 less car. As actually Christopher Robinson's going to pit as well.
Jason Rajcock is in. The race leader of Robinson is in off turn 4. Malachi Drake will stay out for right now. And he is saving and clutching.
He's
This
got
is
6
typical
seconds.
Malachi Drake. He knows how to save fuel and be in a situation like this. And it's now 6 seconds down to 5 seconds between himself and Moreno with 6 laps to go.
It's about a second and a half per lap, so Moreno could get there on the final lap. It is going to be tight between those two if Malachi has enough fuel in the tank.
Robinson gives up the lead. Malachi Drake getting his first laps led of the night. And the big question looming over the clouds here at Charlotte is how long can Malachi Drake go before it all comes away from him? He stays out another lap. 4 laps to go, and it's 4 seconds. Back to Moreno.
Yeah, Moreno could get there by the checkered flag, but is Malachi trying to save enough so that when Moreno gets back to him, that he's able to push to the checkered flag? It's something we'll have to see over the next 7 or so miles. He's trying to aggressively save fuel, and Moreno aggressively trying to run the outside. He is pulling away from Maggio about a 1/10 a lap, so it is all about whether Moreno can catch up to Malachi Drake, and if Malachi Drake has enough fuel running at the checkered flag.
On the last crossing of the start-finish line, Drake was about a 2 3/10 slower than Moreno, who's on fresh tires now. It's a 31.2 for Drake, 30 flat for Moreno, who is charging, huffing and puffing, coming to 2.5 laps to go. He's running the boards in 1 and 2, and he's starting to see that white car of Drake get bigger and bigger out of the front windshield. Bomar in the front of Malachi Drake. He's going to try and save till the end. 2 laps to go. Next time by from Charlotte.
It's under 2 seconds, but Malachi Drake has also slowly been trying to pick up the pace a little bit. But the margin in lap time has been decreasing as it's now only 1.1 seconds at 1.6 seconds back. Moreno, he's going to have to hope for the 90 to possibly run out. Drake's still under power right now off of turn 2. It is 1.3 seconds.
Will there be enough time? If the white flag comes out, a yellow will not affect the end of this race. Malachi Drake on a saving opportunity is now a second in front of Moreno with a closing gap that continues to shrink. White flag in the air from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Will it be a saving masterclass for the 90 car or a second consecutive victory for the 92? They'll come out of the second corner. Drake saving. It's now 0.3 of a second. Moreno is there. He'll have 2 more corners to settle this thing out. From Charlotte, a saving strategy and a push to the end. Final charge in 3 and 4. Moreno is there. Off of turn 4. Moreno breaks through. And for the second consecutive race, Moreno wins. This time from Charlotte.
Malachi Drake sent it into turn 3. He ran out of fuel in the middle in 3 and 4. And shades of Dale Earnhardt Jr. does not get to the checkered flag. Ethan Fonseca Moreno with the hat trick from Charlotte Motor Speedway in a thrilling fashion.
Moreno gets his 4th ever SAAC Cup Series victory. And his first here at Charlotte, 2nd ever at a 1.5 miles after winning Kansas back in early December of 2024. And it's a hard-earned victory, pitting at the right time, getting over his teammates Maggio and Dahari while they had the edge early. And for just the 4th time, Moreno is the victor. And for the 3rd straight time on the KBueno Racing Network, he's winning here. I don't know if I've ever seen that before from a driver.
That was insane. That was an excellent effort by Malachi Drake, but it was just, he didn't have that extra half mile needed to stay under power in front of the 92. And you saw he drove it into 3 knowing he probably didn't have enough to get back to the checkered flag, hoping that he can kind of get in the way of Ethan Fonseca, but eventually that speed difference was just too much. He wasn't willing to just plant the car in front of him and left him the space on the outside. And fortunately for Malachi, he still comes away with a 2nd place finish, but it was a valiant effort. As there's Ethan Fonseca celebrating a hard-earned win here from Charlotte Motor Speedway to go back-to-back in the series. And let's watch that final lap again. That was crazy. The gap that Moreno was able to pull back from how far back he was in time to make that charge.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat.
Get away with the victory here. Malachi saving as much as possible. We've seen Drake do that in many other leagues. A lot of times it's worked out. This time it was just too close. And Moreno
You see him right there,
pushing
send
on
it.
the outside. Drake is going to push it up, give Moreno a bit of dirty air, but the fresh tire power is more than enough. And that is a push through for the ages. Moreno breaks free off of turn 4, and in a clutch situation gets the victory here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. An unbelievable end to that race. We saw it very much come down to the line. Maybe a couple hundred feet earlier, Malachi would have been the winner, but it does not end up the case. So here from Charlotte Motor Speedway, Moreno is the victor by 1 second only over Malachi Drake, who saved enough to make it to the checkered flag, and will get one of the best finishes we've seen of him this season. Steven Maggio short at the end, but based on how dire his straights looked like earlier on in the race, it's definitely a good recovery. Gabriel Dahari ends up in 4th. Ollie Reeves, former race leader, led a bunch of laps and had a great showing. He ends up 5th. And Dreddy Robinson, got to give him credit for the run tonight. P6, Trevor Haley back in 7th. Duncan Fall, the 61 car, with a great P8 at the end of it. Garrett White for the Whiteout Motorsports camp was at one point a lap down in this race, recovers to 9th. And Brad Sawinski, the 28 car, rounds out the top 10.
11th place goes to Sharky Tarpley in the number 25. Wyatt Roberts recovers into the 12th place position. Christopher Robinson finishes 13th with Trevor Burns finishing in 14th. Austin Doran finishes in 15th with Jason Raycock in the 16th spot. Zachary Bonesick will finish in the 17th position with Nicholas Bauman in 18th. Donovan David will finish in the 19th spot with Connor Zola rounding out your top 20.
Back in 21st, you'll find Jason Marshall, the 3 car there, 22nd to Nicholas Borowski. Michael Walls in the 24 car recovers after early race damage for 23rd. 24th, we go to the 36 car of Cody Riveras, James Bomar. Strong car early, and then strategy in a mix of trouble basically took him out of contention. He's the first car to finish 1 lap down with Gino Mero behind. Jonathan Jurgensmeyer, I mean, he pitted late in the race, could have easily extended to the checkered flag, but it was a daunting task given all that happened. Connor Trafari, 10 laps down in 28th. Declan George in 29th for his number 17 car. And then Keelan Belsha, 28 laps down in 30th. Promising start for our good friend from Louisiana and KBRN member Belsha, but ultimately ends up outside of the top 30. There's Amir Bascombe, early damage from a crash off the back straightaway, ends up 31st. Justin Roth, the 76 car, 32nd. Devin Frank, Larry Miles, Austin Mitty, Rivers Jones. That's where you get to the really heavy casualty list. Drivers that were really involved in the biggest crashes of the night, especially off of turn 4. Heavy hits for Mitty and Rivers Jones. Picked up suspension damage. Alexander Schumacher, good friend of ours, ends up 139 laps down in 37th. Jamie Wright to 38th. Brandon Thomas and Ellis Wells brings us the 40 car field after 45 plus registered for the session, and only those 40 could make it to the green flag. Well, let's enter victory lane, where for the second consecutive race, it is Ethan Fonseca Moreno. And after Michigan last week, I was rewatching that race earlier this afternoon, Ethan, and I could not imagine that the theatrics would get any more dramatic, but you end up with a white flag pass out of the final corner right as you're watching that checkered flag. You get around Malachi Drake with this specific strategy. How rewarding does that feel, and how close were you at basically crashing out to the checkered flag? It was a really thin finish between you two.
Yeah, that was close. I was hoping that he wouldn't pull anything crazy and like just wreck me or something, which he was really respectful there. I appreciate that a lot. That was a fun battle there. I honestly did not realize he was going to come close to making it to the end there. We were like communicating within the team, or like, yo, these guys are 4 laps short, they're not going to make it. And then next thing you know, somebody mentions like, oh, he's won a couple races doing this fuel mileage stuff. And I'm like, oh, and I was like, damn, okay, I got to get going now, because I was just managing the gap to Steven. I wasn't even doing too much. And then I realized, I was like, yeah, I got to get going. So it was crazy there for a second there. I thought he had it. I didn't think he was going to run out, knowing my luck, and probably would have finished second, I thought, at least. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. I enjoy the way these cars race now. That aero stuff is pretty cool to see. I mean, everybody's kind of getting spread out now, and it's putting on some good racing.
You know, we were in a voice chat a couple days ago alongside a ton of the other drivers in this series as we were putting up hosted sessions, just trying to take notes on what this car was like. But regardless of the next gen update or not, setup update or not, it still is a Charlotte track that continues to reward you and one that you run well at. It's 3 consecutive victories at Charlotte with broadcast here on KBRN. I don't know if you knew that, but between 4 wide, dropping the hammer, and tonight, it's 3 straight victories. What is it about Charlotte that's so special for you? And even with the updates, how you've been able to maneuver this car and make it as fast as possible, especially tonight with the challenges everybody had to deal with.
Dropping the hammer, I didn't win that race.
Oh,
I
it was
was,
Cedric Hunter, but it was still a good finish.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we were pointing that storyline the whole time, and I guess I was wrong. But it was still 3 great races for you, but nonetheless, lots of challenges. How were you able to deal with that with the car tonight?
It was interesting. Just definitely trying to be on the edge of what I'm able to do with this car. I know it's a little tricky now because dirty air is stronger, but also when it comes to people closing in on your rear end and packing air, it's like it's way stronger than it was before, and it's like it can definitely get somebody wrecked for sure doing that. So you gotta even crossing the wake. Crossing the wake is it's dangerous as well. You could definitely wreck out of that. So just finding the limits. I think those hosted sessions definitely gave me a better feel for how to approach this race. So yeah, it's a lot of laps put in, and glad to come out with the win.
So it's your 2nd consecutive win this year. Of course, Michigan came down to a pass inside the final 5. This one comes down to a pass inside the final 1. And you guys move on to a road course in which you found success at Sonoma Raceway. I'd say it's one of your home tracks out in California. So what kind of thoughts do you have about our first road course trip of the season and the overall trip out west as you try to maintain the championship lead?
Yeah, that's another learning curve as well because obviously with this new update, I have no idea what they did to the cars or the setup to that track. So it was a fun battle last season. So hopefully I can carry on what I had last season and try to go for another one in a row.
Well, Ethan, it was a stellar victory here from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it's another career victory here in your SAAC Cup Series tenure. Before we let you go on this fantastic victory at the end, anybody that you want to shout out or thank for tonight's run?
Is my mic? Okay. Yeah, I want to shout out the guys, everybody who was up there at the front, racing clean, hard and clean for sure. Steven put on a hell of a fight there at the end. Good efforts by him. Good stuff by Malachi Drake as well. I wasn't expecting that, and he definitely came close. Kind of feel bad for him a little bit, but he's definitely gonna get some coming for sure. Gotta shout out my teammates in the call as well. Shout out to Jaden for not showing up again. Guy was in the pool or whatever, doing some weird activities. But KBRN, a whole BBR group.
Well, Ethan, on behalf of all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, that was an entertaining show. That was a lot of fun to watch. Congratulations on your 2nd victory of the 2025 season, and we'll see you in the rest of the field at Sonoma next week.
Yes, sir. See y'all then.
Ethan Fonseca Moreno, victorious. Francisco, did you have a word for him at the end? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
More so for you. You see, he does not hesitate an opportunity to call out Jaden.
That's true. And he had no hesitation in calling me out. I had it wrong. Cedric Hunter was the winner at dropping the hammer for Charlotte. I didn't want to humble myself there, but I guess I had to a little bit as a broadcaster. Let's turn to 2nd place and Malachi Drake. Malachi, I've known you and I've known of your driving style since the Ice Car days in the early 2020s. And one thing that a lot of the drivers said about you is the way you're able to save fuel and extend runs to which a lot of other drivers cannot do in situations like these. You saved enough to make it to the checkered flag, not enough for the victory, just a little bit short. But what thoughts can you take away from what was a crazy ending to the race?
The race was very chaotic to start with, and I'm glad we went green to the end. I probably could have saved a little bit more at the start of the run. I just didn't want to lose too much time to the leaders. And but congrats to Ethan on the win. He was pushing the pace, and those last 2 laps I had to push to even have a chance, and just come up a little short. But it was a fun race. Figured I'd give it a chance on fuel. I was running like 8th to 12th, so figured it was worth a shot.
Given the situation that everybody faced with coming into tonight, obviously the new iRacing update, the elephant in the room, the next-gen tire and the aero model was updated to spec to be a little more realistic, as of what they said when releasing the build. You and everyone else had to take notes throughout this race trim with this race car. What kind of things did you learn over the course of this race and maybe helped you out, and things that you'll try and fine tune as the season progresses with the next gen?
Yeah. One thing I noticed was that the tires wore out a lot quicker. Even like when you were saving, like, the lap times fell off and then they kind of plateaued quicker. I feel like it was a little bit harder to get the correct line in the corners. I don't know. I think that may have been just how I was driving it, but to me, it felt it felt similar, but a little bit off for most of the race. Like I could tell something was different, but really it took until probably the last couple of runs in the race before I kind of was starting to get the hang of how you can manage the tires a little bit. But I was still burning them up a little bit more than the leaders, which is why I tried the fuel save.
Well, Malachi, you extended the fuel all the way to the checkered flag, which is something, we were watching for, nervous as to whether it would happen, but you ended up getting it done, and it's your best finish so far of Season 4 after 2 rough races at Daytona and at Michigan. So you guys push forward to the first road course race at Sonoma. Malachi, before we let you go, anybody that you want to thank for tonight's finish?
I want to thank Cody for hosting the league, and thank you for broadcasting, and my team, which none of them can make it tonight. Thank them for giving me support from the sidelines, and came close to bringing home a trophy for them, but we'll try again later this season.
But it's your best finish so far of the year, so that's definitely a good sign as you guys move forward through the campaign. Malachi, on behalf of all of us here at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on the runner-up finish, and we'll see you guys at Sonoma next week.
All right, thank you.
Malachi Drake, just a bit short of the checkered flag, but his saving strategy made us in awe. It was a great ending to that race. And now we're joined by the next driver in line. Well, Francisco Bacchiao, you're caught up with the third place finisher. That's Stephen Maggio.
Well, Steven, it was a really good night for yourself. You led a ton of laps and you were contending for the win all night. Ultimately, in that last run, you came up a little bit short to Ethan in the same strategy and Malachi, who tried the fuel save. What more did you think that you needed to try and win this race?
Just gonna have to go back to the drawing board. I think that this new tire model, it's gonna help Ethan a lot. We're usually fast at the same types of tracks, and I don't know. He was just better than me tonight. I mean, we've had battles. I think the last 4 broadcasted races by you guys at this track, and on the previous one, I feel like we kind of went back and forth a little bit. But tonight, I just didn't have anything for him. I thought I was saving really good in his draft, just letting off a little bit earlier in the corners and stuff. And he wasn't running the complete bottom, so I was still getting a little bit of clean air on my nose. So I thought I was going to be in a good spot, and then he just drove away. So not really sure what I have to do there. If I have to, try to start running in the middle of the track or up top and just figure out a way to get it on the right rear more. The seam doesn't really get it on the right rear like it does at maybe Michigan or a Homestead or something. So, yeah, just need to find a little bit more speed to win. I mean, I'm having good finishes still, but I want to win. I don't really care about getting second or third. I'm here for wins. So
We saw you mentioned there that you guys have been battling the last couple of times and you're trying to figure out how to get the leg one up. What is it like when you have to race a teammate like that almost every single time you show up? Not just to this racetrack in particular, but it seems as though you guys have had multiple battles across various different racetracks. Does it sometimes tend to boil over personally?
not really personally. I mean, sometimes you just get frustrated, like maybe after race, you think, why do you race me so hard or whatever. But really, I feel like we've raced, like we've never wrecked each other, I don't think. And, we definitely race each other hard. I think he probably races me a little bit harder than I do, but I think that's just his driving style. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But I don't think I don't get personally upset with him. He's awesome. He's an amazing teammate. He gets us paint schemes. The paint scheme I ran tonight was one that he bought from Cosman, and he's awesome. He's one of the best teammates you could ask for. So I don't think anything less of him personally when we race hard against each other. And I just gotta try to go back to the drawing board and figure out what he's doing to get on the right rear a little bit more than I was, and try to get a win.
And with these new setup changes that came to iRacing with the build, you said how it was different, and you have to go back to the drawing board. Overall, besides those main points, what are your takeaways of the new updates? Getting now a full league race competition under your belt, and moving towards a road course and another mile and a half afterwards.
I enjoyed it a lot more than usual. The last couple of Charlotte races that I've done, that you guys have broadcasted them, it's just an absolute pack race at the front, and you got like 6 guys in a line, and they're all running the bottom, and you're checking up so much, and no one wants to be the leader because the dirty air doesn't do enough, and so you're pushing out in the lead, and then the guy behind you is just easing into the corner and getting your draft down the straightaway, so they're staying with you, but they're like killing their tires less. So now the clean air actually really matters, and there's not like a pack at the front, and you see more people like running up front for the whole run, whereas instead you used to have like a guy that would be maybe 10th, he'd push super hard, get to the lead, and then fall back again, and then he's like holding everyone up when they're trying to get by after they save their tires, and you don't really see that anymore. So I really like that, and the car itself doesn't drive too differently. I felt like a tiny bit tighter, but I mean the car doesn't handle like massively different. I just think that the dirty air makes a huge difference with spreading us out a little bit and making you have to run a different line. So I think if you go to a track like Las Vegas, it's going to be amazing with how multi-groove that is.
And we'll be there in 2 weeks, Steven. And before we let you go, anybody want to give a shout out for that helps make this happen for you and your 51 team?
Yeah, shout out our league owner, Cody, or the SAAC league owner, Cody Rivera's. He does an awesome job. He did the best thing he could have done in getting you guys to broadcast, because you guys are the best, KBRN. I had you guys on my car tonight. Like I said, Ethan got me that paint scheme, so shout out to him as well. And shout out my team at GOAT. You got Justin Rott, Jared Rivers, Micah, Gabriel Dahari. I don't know if he's my teammate or not, but I always race him as a teammate. And shout out Ethan on the win, and Malachi with a masterclass fuel save. I don't know how he did it, but that was really good. So I think that's about it. Thank you guys for broadcasting. I'm really excited that you guys are broadcasting for the rest of the season.
Happy to be here, Steven, and congrats on recognizing your team name and not having to swear twice to remember the team name that was on your race car. A little bit of an Easter egg to back to Homestead. We appreciate the effort here tonight, Steven. We hope to see you at Sonoma next week.
Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Wow,
I had to make sure he remembered.
What a jab that was, Francisco. Wow. Well, so for those who don't know, Maggio did curse twice, and I said that I was going to fine him, like 2 sour cream and onion Pringles and like $4 in iRacing credits. I guess he made that all back up with all the sessions he put on with the brand new next-gen car, but just a little fun poking there with Steven Maggio as he walks home to 3rd place here from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. So as we move forward in this 2025 schedule, it is 2 weeks of West Coast racing. We'll head out to California. Sonoma Raceway, our first road course event of the season, takes place next Thursday night, June 19th. And then on June 26th, we'll head to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And I'll be back for coverage at the Brickyard, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the week right after that. We'll have a bit of a summer stretch off before we return to Iowa, and then we take our journey through a lot of the refreshed tracks on the iRacing service. So, Francisco, lots of racing to be had, and from what we've seen, I think there's plenty more excitement down the road.
Absolutely. We started off with an absolute banger here tonight with this opening round at Charlotte between Ethan and Malachi and that fuel-saving effort. And we saw some good stuff out of this brand new update with the next-gen cars and the potential it has as we move into these other racetracks. So I'm excited to see how it performs, especially considering that there's still some more updates that iRacing is going to be doing to these race cars. We know tomorrow morning there's another patch that is slated to be released, possibly some more setup changes and a little bit more touches to try and balance out the other racetracks. And we talked about how some other tracks are possibly a little bit more drastic with the looseness or something of the sorts to that nature. But we saw a great race here tonight, so it wouldn't surprise me to see some more great racing going forward. And I gotta say, Kenneth, I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest with you. For the next 2 weeks, I have to carry the load here. I'm putting KBRN on my shoulders. I'm a little bit nervous to live up to the potential.
Well, you've got the support from all of us, so that's what matters, and I'll be there to help you as much as I can. But it was a great race tonight from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Ethan Fonseca Moreno, the race victor for the 2nd time in Season 4 of the SAAC Cup Series. That does it for our coverage here on the KBueno Racing Network. For the race, itself, Cody Riveras, on behalf of him and everyone at the SAAC Cup Series, and on behalf of every great member of the KBueno Racing Network, from Eli Comerford to Keelan Belsha to Charlie Beyer, and to my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacallao, I am Kenneth Bueno, but do not go anywhere because the KBRN post-race show starts next. Well, 167 laps of grueling racing here from NASCAR's backyard put us in a strategy race that ended with Malachi Drake just short of the race victory and Ethan Fonseca Moreno getting the victory. Welcome to the KBRN post-race show. Bit of action as we unwrap and sort of digest what this race was all about. And I've got Francisco Bacallao alongside me. Oh, Francisco, man, what a race. This was a wild one, to be fair. A lot of drivers dealing with the new next-gen tires, the new aero model, new way to drive these cars, and even then, it just came down to one man trying to save, one man trying to push. The pusher ends up winning.
Yeah, and it's Ethan Fonseca going back-to-back in race wins at Michigan last week, and now this time here at Charlotte, and he was able to be the first one to get multiple wins in these 3 races. He sits second in the points. Now the points have been updated, and it is Steven Maggio that leads the way with his 3 top 5 finishes. So really consistent starts there from that duo of drivers that have gotten a nice and solid gap towards the playoff cutoff as we speak. And that's something that we're going to be looking at here in this post-race show, is how these points are shaken out and who are those that are at least currently and very early in this season on that cut line and are looking to try and get on the positive end of things.
You know, one of the drivers, Rivers Jones, who had trouble early on this evening, he ended up only 2 points lost from the cut line despite a 36th place finish. So, you know, as we mentioned, the point standings that goes all the way to the end of the race. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that ended up, or how that really ends up over the course of tonight's event. We have a lot of drivers to talk to over tonight's race, and let's start with the driver of the number 16, and that is our very good friend Keelan Belsha, who ended up 30th after a very grueling Charlotte race. But Keelan, we got to talk to you first, of course. You were one of the guys first to get back on to the show, but welcome to the KBRN post-race show. I guess first and simply, what are your thoughts after Charlotte? That was wild.
It was a wild race. This was my my debut in SAAC, and I mean, it was a good time. There was some good racing. There were a couple times in this new next gen update I almost stepped on myself, and I mean, we did okay. I thought I did okay for what I did. It didn't end out that way, but Kenneth, I'll give you some context. I'll give you a story today about what happened to me. So this right here is the headset I usually use. You know what I'm saying? I came back from my mom's house today, and I left the Bluetooth like wireless adapter that you plug into the computer. I left it at the house up there. So 15 minutes before this race got started, I got this $3.75 wired earbud thing from Dollar General, because I knew I'd have to hear, because hearing is so important in these things, and it worked fine until I'm going down the backstretch, coming to my pit stop, and Gabriel Dehari just come off pit road, and he is hunting me down, Kenneth. I mean, he's right there, and I don't have the opportunity to call it out because the headset's unplugged, and I didn't have the I don't think I had the Yeti set up on iRacing, so I kind of got scared, and I forgot to turn my brake bias back up to come down pit road, and ended up in the Charlie Beyer Photography 16 car spinning and getting junked a little bit, and that kind of came to the end of our day. Luckily, I wasn't the cause of a late yellow there, and the strategy played out. It was a spectacular finish. You guys always do a great job keeping on top of that. So, spectacular finish between Malachi and Ethan. I was in VC with Ethan all night, asking him tips and trying to figure out what was going on with the race car and trying to learn the race car. And I felt like I learned a good bit today and kind of learned this racetrack and how this next gen drives. But just wish I could have got to the finish. But going to try to make as many races as I can in this series. I really want to learn these next gens. I want to get better, because if there's one car that I really suck in terribly, it's this one. And just thankful for the opportunity to get back out there tonight. It was a lot of fun, tons of fun. Just really wish we could have finished it off. Probably had the speed to get up there, finish in the top 15, but you know, that's just not how it goes sometimes.
ends up 30th here after the first mile and a half race start for you here in this series. I was trying to rekindle some magic, Keelan. I'm going to be honest. I remember the last time you raced on the KBueno Racing Network was at Talladega with the 4-wide series. You ended up just shy of the race victory, and you were exhilarated for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 days after that race.
Oh, dude. I was going insane. I mean, that's the highlight of my iRacing career to this point, besides maybe the IQSSL Lanier Dirt victory.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
I mean,
that's a big throwback. Francisco, any words here for Keelan, our good friend? I mean, we can roast him all we want, but it was a new car, new update, and he tried his best.
He put on a great effort. You did, Keelan. You were running inside the top 10 at times here tonight, and you definitely have some great pace. Just unfortunate that issue there entering pit road took you out of what could have been a better finish than what you ended up with. So, what is your goals for the season? Are you going to be trying to make a full-time effort? Are we going to see you at Sonoma?
Who is next week Sonoma? No, probably not. I probably will not be here. I'm going to avoid the road courses. I know I said I want to get better, but I draw the line at road courses. So we'll let's look at the schedule and I'll tell you when we'll be back, Kenneth or Francisco. I'm not going to be here Sonoma, Las Vegas. I'm going to be with my beautiful girlfriend. That is her birthday week. Indianapolis, I'll be back, Francisco. So we'll be back for that one, and we'll see how that one goes. I remember I tried to race 4 wide Indianapolis in December, and well, I'm not even going to get into what happened there, but Indy, we should be back July the 3rd. That sounds like a good race to come back for me. What do you think?
Yeah, 4th of July weekend, we'll definitely see some patriotic paint schemes out there, and I hope you'll have a patriotic Dirty South Racing Charlie Byer photography car. I think that car would look great with the stars and stripes.
If I could... I really need to talk to Charlie, talk to Ethan, talk to somebody. Heck, I may have to talk to Austin Dorn because that's his scheme I ran tonight. Shout out to that guy. He was in the 52 out there tonight. Me and him actually had a pretty good race for like the 19th position for like 10 laps. I don't know if y'all caught that or not. We were trading slide jobs and trying to cross each other's wake. It was crazy.
And also, I got to ask you this. Do you have the Panthers and Oilers game up there on the side?
I do not. No, I'm not.
Right now it's in overtime.
Don't even. I don't. Look. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of other sports-minded people from the university I went to, and they went from super confident, and then the panic just slowly started coming in. I don't even want to look at that game right now. I'm not gonna lie.
This is the 3rd of 4 games that go into overtime in the finals. That is insane.
They're up 2-1, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Okay, well, if you can get the win tonight, that'd be huge. I mean, I watch hockey in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but I'm currently in Roku City right now on this TV because I've been racing. So,
I mean, we love a good Roku City. Ain't nothing wrong with Roku City. It's probably one of the best towns. I want to visit Roku City. You know what they say? Getting blackout drunk at Roku City.
I mean, Kenneth, you come visit me, we'll get blackout drunk in Roku City. What do you think?
All right. Well, I may take you up on the offer, but Keelan, we really appreciate the time. Always great to talk to you, of course. We know on and off the track you're a great friend of ours. So, Keelan, we appreciate the time. We'll move on to the next driver, but it was a 30th place finish, but you put on a great show nonetheless. Hopefully we get to see you soon on track.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Kenneth.
That's Keelan Belsha there. You look at the fight between himself and Austin Dorn. I think that's what he was talking about in the middle of the pack earlier on in the race, but let's see if we can join another driver on the post-race coverage right now, and that is Jonathan Juergensmeyer, who will bring us in this time in the car of the 00 for the Ford Mustang. Thank you, Jonathan, for joining the KBRN post-race show. I know it wasn't exactly the finish you were hoping for given the strong pace you had, but paint the picture there. Final 20 to 15 laps. It's a strategy call. You're willing to stay out there. What was it like behind the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, we're running well. We're up there in the top 5, and I had to make a split-second decision on what I was gonna do. So I decided I'm gonna stay out and go for the win because, I mean, there was a lot of cautions throughout the day. So I mean, one more caution and we have a chance at winning the race. So I went for it, and then I sped. So I finished 27th. But I mean, it would have been better without that. But it was still a fun race, trying to learn how the update works and everything. Just managing the dirty air. I'm not going to talk about it as much as Steven did, but yeah, it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I was kind of about to ask that question about how this car feels because I think everybody really has their own answer of whether they kind of like it or not. I mean, it seems like the setups got better. They did come away with a patch. I think it was yesterday after Tuesday because some of the setups were almost undrivable a little bit. But from your perspective, do you think it was a lot more fun racing this version of the car in let's say, in comparison to before the update came out if you ran a race here at Charlotte?
I mean, it kind of depends because, I mean, the dirty air isn't very fun, but we're a lot more spread out, which I think creates a lot better racing than everyone just being packed up together. So, yeah, I think it put on a better show for you guys once we stopped wrecking. So, yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's a challenge to try to figure out, and yeah, we'll keep figuring it out throughout the season.
I know you had 2 good top 10 finishes to kick off the season, Daytona and Michigan. Tonight, obviously, not a top 10 finish, but loads of promise in the midst of it all. We come to the first road course race next season. We've got a lot of great tracks from Vegas, Indianapolis, Iowa, as we push towards the playoffs. Are there any tracks on the schedule that you kind of figure out would be one that you have circled, or are there any favorites that you have out there to say, yeah, I'm going to go out there, I want to win this race the most?
There's a lot of really good tracks on the schedule that are like, I do like road courses like Sonoma. I think it'll be a fun race to be in. I'm not gonna say I have a chance to win, but I feel like in this league there's a lot more chances to win a road course because you don't have a guy like Brandon Hawken who's gonna win by 30 seconds. So Portland as well, that's another fun one. Texas is a really good track for me as well. So I mean, a lot of those tracks I'm a big fan of before the playoffs. The schedule in the playoffs I don't really like, but yeah, that's about it.
Well, Jonathan, Francisco, do you have any words for 00 tonight?
It was a great race for yourself here tonight, Jonathan. You've had a good string of momentum going the last couple of races that we have covered personally. So what's it like over the last, I would say, 2 or 3 months, just putting together these solid races? I know you probably haven't gone to victory lane like you would hoped for, but it's still consistent top 3, top 5, top 10 efforts I've noticed on a weekly basis. So just kind of talk us through what it's like being able to put those consistent runs together, and what tracks are opportunities that you think you could break through at in the next couple weeks.
I mean, yeah, it's my driving style. It kind of fits being consistent and, you know, not going for gaps and that I shouldn't go for early in the race and just trying to bring it home without a mistake. So, yeah, today was not an example of that because I sped when I probably would have gotten the top 10. So, it's not the race to be saying that, but, yeah, I feel like the more consistent you run, you got a better chance of ending up in victory lane. So, yeah, it's sort of my mentality.
And you're going to appreciate these road courses coming up. We got Sonoma next week. Then we go to another mile and a half in Las Vegas, which after the update, it strangely enough doesn't race too differently than Charlotte. So when we go to that Las Vegas race, just kind of skipping past Sonoma here, do you think you can put up a similar performance as tonight?
Oh, for sure. They do sort of run similar, or Charlotte and Vegas do sort of run similarly in that it's not as top dominant as other mile and a half. So it's going to be more dirtier games and stuff like that. And yeah, it'll be fun to decipher.
We appreciate the time, Jonathan, and we do hope to see you out there, Sonoma. We know you like those road courses, so we hope to see you out there contending for a good run and put on a good show for us.
All right, thank you.
Well, that's Jonathan Jurgensmeyer as he comes home in P27 with the situation down pit road. Let's see if we can join another driver on our post-race show. We are now joined by Connor Zola, who ends up coming home P20 tonight in his number 13 car. And as we bring Connor Zola in, I'm going to say, first of all, welcome, Connor, but secondarily, Francisco told me right before we went live, he said, Connor's running a goated scheme. And I was like, what's that? Because I hadn't seen it yet. And he told me it's that Kyle Busch, Skittles, patriotic scheme that he wanted Chicagoland with. But in all seriousness, interesting race tonight from Charlotte. What did you take away from all of it?
Well, that was my first race with the new aero package, and I barely qualified for that race. If you go back and look, I was 39th, and my teammate, Quincy Strawhacker, was 41st, and he didn't make the race. even on time. So I was just lucky just to make it. And then I missed the start. And if you go back and look at lap 1, I wrecked coming out of pit road and somehow didn't cause a caution from that. Yeah, so I was a lap down already. So I'm shocked I even came back and finished 20th. But I thought it was a good race for my end, just trying to get used to the new setups, I guess, the whole entire race. Dirty air is very much a factor now. So Charlotte went from one of my good tracks to one of my kind of bad tracks before I can, get used to it. But I thought I did a good race. I hit the 4 car and almost wrecked him when we went 3. I do apologize to him on that. I didn't mean to get into him. I don't know if it was net code or if I actually hit him. But obviously, sorry to him for that. But I mean, he got me back and finished in front of me. So,
hey, well, nonetheless, I think it's funny to hear your take on it, that this was the first time you've ever had to run this update. And even the people who ran from Tuesday, they're still figuring this thing out. I mean, for me, I've run on all the days past the update, past the patch, and it still feels weird to kind of drive this next-gen car, but you've been able to get a pretty decent handling on it as well as the rest of the field. How will that impact the rest of this season? You got some, great tracks coming up, Sonoma, Las Vegas, the West Coast Swing, and plenty of diversity across this summer gauntlet of the schedule. So what kind of things could you expect to see and things that you'll try to learn as you guys push forward?
mainly for me, it's just going to be for ovals because I'm going to be irrelevant on road courses. But for ovals, just dealing with the new tire fall off with all the new setups and stuff, and mainly just dirty air for me because I'm normally a mid carter on ovals. I'm not really that good, but with the old setups, I used to have late run speed, but not really early run speed, and now I'm burning my tires off too fast. But with the upcoming schedule, I'm not going to be able to run at Las Vegas because I'll be away on the trip. But I might run Sonoma next week. I'm not quite sure yet. But Indy, I'm looking forward to. That's one of my favorite tracks with next gens. I think after that we have the 2-week break, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I have to pull up the schedule. But yeah, I should be back. Indy, I think I might miss the next 2, but Indy will be fun. Iowa's fun. I was running that the other day, and that is really good. And I'm normally terrible at Iowa, but looking forward to Iowa, see if I have any speed for anyone in this league. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next few weeks.
New update at Iowa too, so it's probably gonna be the refresh version with the repay banking. I don't know. We'll see what the SAAC league owners say, but looks like Iowa will be new. We'll see how that all ends up with later on in the season. But Connor, I'm noticing the background here, and I see Red Sox Road. Are you a big Red Sox fan?
Yes, I've been in New Hampshire for 22 years, but I lived in Massachusetts for a year.
Okay.
But yeah, it's Patriots, Bruins, Celtics, Red Sox.
Well, I really want to say, Connor, thank you so much for Brad Marchand. We really appreciate it. And then the Florida
Don't even
fans
get me started on that.
I had to bring that up, knowing about the Boston heritage there for the sports teams. But in all reality, Connor, we really do appreciate the time. And I know it was only a 20th place finish, but we saw a lot of great stuff from you in the mid-pack, a lot of great racing with you and a lot of the other guys. So hopefully we continue to see that further on in the rest of the schedule. But we appreciate everything, Connor, and thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you hopefully in a couple weeks.
Of course.
That's Connor Zola. I had to pick that jab in there. I had to do it at some point. I saw the Red Sox Road. I was looking at the mic too. Really colorful mic for Connor Zola. It's really cool to see that. But Francisco, any thoughts on that? I mean, you and I are Florida fans.
All the Boston sports teams. I mean, loves. Okay, so I just checked right now. I refreshed the page, and Edmonton made a goal there towards the end of the first overtime period. So the Oilers tie the Stanley Cup final here.
Oh, that's rough. That is very, very rough. Well, it's going to be a tie series as they head back to Edmonton, I believe, between games 3 and 4 held in Sunrise, Florida at the Amaranth Bank Arena. But let's get a chance to refresh with another driver. It is Connor Trafarian. We're talking about a lot of the drivers who faced some bad luck tonight. Trafarian ended up in 28th, but still, getting a chance to talk to a lot of these drivers, get to know who they are, and kind of get their perspectives here. Connor, I'm sorry that we kind of jumped in there. I know you did voice chat with a lot of other guys, but thank you for joining our post-race show tonight. Thank you for putting your camera on. What kind of takeaways do you have first and foremost here from Charlotte? I know the race ending wasn't necessarily one that went your way, but probably learned a lot, probably notes you'll take heading into the rest of the year.
Yeah, mainly just like the aero stuff with the car, like the whole aero blocking and the side draft and all that. A lot of it's kind of similar to how it was before the update, which is kind of good, I guess. But yeah.
And a lot of guys talked about what this car would be like, whether the aero packing would be intensely disastrous, whether the dirty air would be so bad. It looked like there was some good racing all across the board, and you had to work your way up through the field for the most part. Do you think that there's still some rewarding feeling there after, you had to start very much at the back after you qualified outside of the top 40, but you made a way through points? How much you had to kind of scrap and get through the field?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I started absolutely dead last, so I can tell you that for sure. I think I gained like close to 15 spots coming to the end of the first lap, just by running the top line and taking the runs where I could. So it definitely, you can still make it up through the pack for sure. But what's different now is that you kind of have to do it earlier on in the run, because once you get spread out, it takes a couple laps before the tires can wear out, and then you can go at it with someone. But yeah, I was just trying to make as much as I could on the restarts, because I knew that's probably my best time of the race as well, because I was never really that fast in the long run for whatever reason. I just couldn't figure out the speed with this next gen, which really sucks, honestly, because I feel like I had a really good run going.
Well, Connor, I'm gonna ask one more question a little bit later, but for right now, lots of great tracks on the schedule. You guys are heading into that summer break. Sonoma, Las Vegas is on the schedule, Iowa, Indy, the list continues. I've asked a driver or two this before. Are there any tracks that you see on the schedule and you're kind of like circling to be your best track, a track that you're going to be the most excited for this year?
Yeah, let me look at it real quick. Definitely all the road courses. I feel like that's one of my best styles in the next gen. It's definitely the road courses. Vegas could probably be cool. Talladega, always one I have circled. I love the plate racing in this car so much. I don't know. All the other ones are kind of the same, honestly, with how they drive. But definitely the road courses for sure. Especially with the points situation I'm in now. I really need to get a little bit of a buffer on the cut line. Definitely not the way I wanted to start the season. But yeah, I'm definitely excited for Sonoma for sure, because I know I can have a really good top 10 run, maybe top 5, depending on how the race goes.
Well, Connor, I'm going to leave you with one last question here before we move on to the next driver here in our post-race show. Trafari is an interesting last name. What is the worst pronunciation you've heard from somebody trying to say your name? Because I've heard Triarfi before.
Yeah.
Trafari, a lot of people seem to get mixed up with that. What's the worst pronunciation you've heard?
God, dude, I don't even know, because I feel like most people actually pronounce it right, which is really funny. I've heard a lot of like Trifari. God, I feel like if anything, they all kind of say it just the same, and it's always sort of right. It's kind of funny actually, because I feel like it's a weird last name. You don't see it a lot, but it's really not that hard apparently to some people.
Well, I'm gonna say this. I know Francisco has dealt with the name butchering a ton with his last name, but
I'll say this: Connor knows that from official. Whenever we race somebody, if they ever try to pronounce my last name, they'll say everything but the right way.
Is it Pescalo?
Oh,
that's a new one.
No, okay, it's not that.
That's a new one. I don't know where the S came from.
Oh, okay. How do you say it? Is it Bacalo?
Oh, that's the most common one I hear, but that's not correct. I'll let Kenneth say it, since he's always said it since day one.
Okay, well, the pronunciation is Bacayao. So you don't pronounce the L as like an L, you pronounce it like a Y a little bit.
Oh, okay, yeah, shoot, I wouldn't even thought that.
Well, Connor.
Yeah, you see, the Spanish language is weird.
Yeah, I didn't even think about Spanish for that, honestly.
Well, for some kind of funny reference here, Francisco and I have meanings for our last name. So Francisco's last name means fish, and my last name means good. So we've heard a lot of. I don't know if Trafari translates into anything, but what
I don't
heritage
think
does
it does
Trafari
either.
come from?
Art.
Italian.
Okay.
So I don't know, pizza, pasta. I don't know.
Our team name
Free will.
translates to fish good.
It is crazy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
Connor, we do really appreciate the time. I know it wasn't the ending that you would have hoped for in 28th here from Charlotte, but we had a lot of fun talking to you. Hopefully we'll get to talk to you more throughout the course of the SAAC Cup Series season, and we'll see you at Sonoma next week.
Hell yeah, see y'all then.
Connor Trafari. Gonna say it right. Connor Trafari, and the number 9 ends up in position number 28 as he joins us for the post-race show. And I think we'll have a chance to talk to one more. Francisco, I'm going to let you lead this in because this is one of the BBR drivers and probably one of the fun personalities of the team. That is Gabriel Dahari, who joins us now.
Hello, Gabriel. You're GOAT Motorsports driver in this series, and a couple of you and your teammates were up front and contending for the win here tonight. You ended up coming short of the race win. You were one of those first ones to pit. So what was it like trying to diagnose the situation as far as when you knew you weren't going to make it and deciding when to pit?
Well, I realized about 5 laps in what the fuel situation was, and collectively in the voice chat we were all like, no one's probably gonna try and save, and if you do, it's probably gonna cost you too much time. And so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna pit. And so I pitted at lap 30 because the race is out of 167, so I was like, 60 divided by 2 is 30, so I pitted at lap 30 when I should have pitted at lap 140. And I didn't gain as much time as I thought I would on Ethan and Andrew. Like, they only came out a second or two behind me, and that was rather disappointing.
It was, and yet you still ended up coming back for that 5th place finish, and we've seen you put on some really consistent performances across several leagues. I think back to one of our more recent broadcasts that also came in a fuel mileage situation back at the Homestead Miami Speedway, where you were able to finish second when Brandon Hawken captured his championship. But what's it like racing in fuel mileage? Because we don't normally see fuel mileage pop up so often, but it seems as though with this next gen car, there's always an opportunity for fuel mileage to affect the outcome of the race. So when fuel mileage presents itself to you, how do you view it, and what are things that you find that have helped you be successful?
I think fuel mileage is definitely very hard because it doesn't happen all the time, so it's not something you can really practice. But having a good setup that you can actually like use all your pedals at the same time properly definitely really helps, especially whenever you're able to put the clutch in with your left foot and then brake with your right foot and then switch over to the gas on your right foot and slowly ease into it. That's definitely something that helps a ton for fuel saving.
And now we're going into Sonoma, and I know you're one of those that look forward to road courses. So in Sonoma in particular, how do you feel about that racetrack?
I like Sonoma. I used to play that a lot on the old Dirt to Daytona. That used to be one of the tracks I ran all the time. But definitely looking forward to seeing how this car runs a race on a road course with this new update.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it runs with the new update. Now that you mentioned the new update, what was it like for you dealing with the new update for the first time in a proper race setting? You were one of those that joined us in a couple of the hosted sessions on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, and we had a bit of fun over at the couple races that we did. But being in the actual heat of competition, what was it like learning on the fly as far as what the air was doing, what the tires were doing, and how to navigate and kind of deal with what the things were throwing at you?
Yeah, it was definitely whenever we first tried it, the setups were not fully updated, and it was super like wrecking loose, and that was honestly kind of fun. But I think the biggest change is definitely the aero, because you run behind someone and it's going to be a lot harder for you to get up to their bumper. But if you do actually manage to get up to their bumper, the guy is going to get like wrecking loose if you can stay right on there, and it's definitely very interesting.
And you have anything, Kenneth?
Well, I was going to ask one more thing, Gabriel, here, because I've seen a lot of paint schemes in my days as an iRacing broadcaster. I've seen very good-looking schemes. I've seen very professional team schemes. I've seen very silly ones, a lot of meme schemes. You know, 4 wide, we've seen a lot of meme schemes too. Yours seems to be right in the middle. It's a fun paint scheme. It's a little silly, but it looks like a real-life race car. I mean, this kind of reminds me of the Starcom cars from not that many years ago. So what was kind of the inspiration behind the B-movie car and how you interpret it as you race it on the sim?
You know, it's actually a recreation of a car made in NASCAR The Game 15, made by my friend. And I had Rivers Jones make the logos for me, and I just slapped a nice fade on the front bumper, put the logos on there, and called it a day. I don't really remember what the inspiration for the B movie stuff. Oh, I do remember. Back on Heat, I used to run in a league, and me and some friends, we got a team together. Once again, I don't know why, but we called it B movie racing, and we all just like ran black and yellow liveries, and that's how that got started. I don't really know why we went that direction with it, but that's how it turned out.
All right, well, I think that's all I had to say because it's a fun paint scheme, and you've made it really fast. 4th place tonight here from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Gabriel, a fantastic run. Hopefully we'll be able to see you in the rest of the field at Sonoma Raceway and then Las Vegas in the next couple weeks, but congrats on the top 5 here from Charlotte.
Thank you. Have a good one.
So that is Gabriel Dahari, who ends up in position number 4 after the end of it all tonight. I think we're approaching midnight on the Eastern Seaboard, so we're going to try and close out this KBRN post-race show. But it was a lot of fun, Francisco. Great to talk to a lot of the drivers, and hopefully we kind of make this a bit of a tradition in all the leagues we cover because, you know, a lot of reasons why leagues with drivers that aren't pros, that aren't, you know, real-life racing drivers, a lot of reasons why they like broadcasts is because it gives that element of feeling like they are a NASCAR driver and they are getting that attention on TV. So it's really cool to kind of get to know them and just have a bit of fun too.
Absolutely right. We got to experiment it in 4 wide when we had the Drop in the Hammer pre-race show the entirety of the season, and it worked marvel for us. You were doing a great job giving us some excellent content and video and packages put together. If somebody still has not seen those packages, go and check out any 4 wide race that we have put up in this past season here on the KBueno Racing Network. And Kenneth really did an excellent job of creating some great packages, great storylines to go back and look at them. And I can't wait for what we have when we show back up at Daytona in August with some brand new tickers, brand new everything, and brand new content ready to go for season 8 of that one. But in the meantime, we're going to have summer action all over the place between this brand new series here for us here on the KBueno Racing Network with the season 4 of SAAC, but also during the Drop in the Hammer Cup Series playoff action, which will be at Watkins Glen here on Sunday. Can't wait for that. So it's going to be a week of road courses. Kenneth, you gave me a week of road courses. That's what you let me in charge with.
Yeah, we're doubling up on the road courses. Watkins Glen for Drop in the Hammer. That is the final race of the round of 16, by the way, in the playoffs. So if you want to tune into that, June 15th, coverage begins at around 8:05 p.m. Eastern at Watkins Glen. Francisco has the keys of the KBueno Racing Network. He will have the control of the broadcast, and he'll give you a fantastic show from upstate New York. We'll be back next Thursday. Hopefully, Francisco will be producing that as well. It's Sonoma Raceway, first road course race of the season, and then we'll take a bit of a break. We'll return for Texas Motor Speedway the week after for Drop in the Hammer, and then hopefully if we don't get Las Vegas in, we'll be back at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway in late June, early July, and then we'll get to that summer stretch. We'll start to wind things down as we get closer to the Season 4 SAAC Coast to Coast Cup Series playoffs. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the KBRN post-race show. It was a lot of fun to bring you all the storylines and talk to the drivers. On behalf of everyone that joined us this evening, once again on behalf of Cody Riveris and the rest of the admin team at the SAAC Cup Series, and for all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, for Eli Comerford, Keelan Belsha, Charlie Byer, and for my great colleague in the booth, Francisco Bacallao, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Charlotte Motor Speedway, and a big congratulations to Ethan Fonseca Moreno on his 4th career SAAC Cup Series victory.